Welcome everybody. I'm a little bit early, 7 minutes, so we'll wait for everybody to get in before we go through the main part of this stream today. It's an exciting Tuesday bell open after the long weekend. Happy long weekend to all of the American audience that's up nice and early. Hello everyone around the world. Good to see you all here. Just thought I'd put it on this screen. Obviously, Nikola is probably the story of the day. General Motors acquires 11% stake in electric truck maker. 46% up pre-market. So for all those people in Nikola, congratulations, I guess. Probably one of those flash booms and then a bit of a sell-off after that. But 44 to 46% is pretty amazing. Hello, everyone. I'll just say hello to everybody. George Malici, how are you? Pumba, what's up? Albrello, Felix, hello. I'll answer your question in a second, Felix. Shane. Shihang, Dutch, good to see you. Hey, Brian. Sneeze, Shandu. Man, some people have some tough names. Hopefully that's you. Hello, how are you? Hey, Ryan. Where's Jerome Powell? I wouldn't worry too much. I mean, obviously we are going to see a pullback here off a few things. I think today what we'll do is we'll go through some of the key news that's coming out. We'll just use the free resources as usual, just to show you some of the things. Remember, do post in the community, post in the chat here, some of the resources that you use, and we can share that out. We'll definitely check those through. Now, it's a question here, and it's a good question. Felix says, just because I'm curious, is there any research papers, statistics, how a red pre-market affects the day? Look, there would be full research on that, Felix. Obviously, it's a common occurrence. The problem is that even if you broke it down to statistics, you chunked it over maybe 30 years, 20 years, 10 years, it won't be that superiorly relevant. Like, we've already seen that September's, historically the worst month of this trading year, every year, always the worst. Now, does that mean that every September is going to be bad? No, it just means that you need to realize that is the worst one and then maybe a 7 out of 10 chance. The problem with daily stats is that we've got so many things going on. We've obviously got the Jerome Powell put, we've got the tensions between the US and China, and actually a lot of the Western world right now. All these things are becoming problemsome, but they're totally different every single day. And the market's changing so much right now that I think some of the old stats may not be working. Tesla down 12, absolutely. Nikola up 40, Tesla down. What do you mean, Brian? Are you out of Tesla? Are we buying the dip? I'll go through all of that later. Obviously, I'm a little bit early on this stream, so I'll let everyone trickle in. Hi, Yujit. How are you? Hello, Turkey. Great place, I've heard. I have not been there, but my parents have, and they really liked it. So I'm sure it'll be a place I want to visit one day when we're eventually out of this ridiculous crisis. Tesla sold the whole $5 billion of stock on 1st of September. They also weren't selected in the S&P. Yeah, that's right, Shane. Yep, not selected in the S&P is a big deal, I think, for a lot of Tesla bulls. And obviously with the valuations as high as they are, it's going to be a little bit tough. Okay, well, we're almost there. 3 more minutes. Obviously, keep asking your questions throughout the stream. Really appreciate that. And we'll move it over now to being able to actually show you some stuff. All right, so here we go with Nikola. 46% up pre-market. GM taking an 11% stake in the electric truck maker. It's pretty big news, I think. GM to receive $2 billion in Nikola stock. I think this is still a hyperactive kind of move, but that's the nature of news announcements. Remember, Zoom moved incredibly aggressively off its earnings and then straight back down. So buying into hype is not something that I've predominantly done throughout my trading career. Well, I've done it, but then I've made mistakes doing that in the past. So I'm not a big buyer of hype. I usually like to kind of buy the rumor, sell the fact, then buy the dip after the fact. You often get a retracement. I think Berkshire was a classic case of that. If you have a look at a Berkshire chart, look at the announcement for Berkshire Hathaway, and then look at the dip after the announcement and the great technical level you can pick that up off. GM will bankrupt Nikola. I don't know about that, but I definitely do know that we are not necessarily looking at the best kind of alliance. It's not necessarily the best for either company. It's obviously a move, though, that's very profitable at this stage for a trader. GM has done a PayPal to BNPL. Now, I think that PayPal has done a massive change for things like Zip and obviously Afterpay. I've not been the biggest fan of those two companies. Obviously, they've done incredibly well. They've been great trades long, but fundamentally, I've always been a bit concerned about them. All right, so here we go. 10 o'clock. Time to start. Hello, welcome. And today we're going to go through so many things. We've got so much pre-market action. I think it's best to probably start with some of the things that I recommend that people consider doing when they're looking at a market, just they haven't even seen it for the day. And when they come in, and what are they going to look at? Well, a lot of people would say, well, let's look at the news. Let's look at the information that's coming out. I think that like here, SoftBank's $4 billion tech option gambit, big articles being written about it right now. Obviously, it's being blamed a lot for the current movements that are going on. Then you've got, obviously the Nikola news. It's good to know these things, but a lot of this blurs your judgment. So a lot of this doesn't necessarily help you in making good decisions. It's obviously opinion pieces and mostly just kind of information. Now, you'll notice that whenever you read a news article, it'll always be something like this. It'll be like, today, the stock market moved down because of concerns over trade or concerns over rise of cases or something like that. It's just article writing. It's not that they know why it's moving. And I think when you first understand that it's not necessarily that you're going to understand all the time what's moving, it's more statistics, sentiment, background kind of information, and just thinking, is this an extended market? Where will it dip to? Use technicals along with your fundamentals and you make a lot more success. BAC ready for breakout. We'll be looking at that later, Wayne, for sure. BAC is always a great stock. Obviously a Buffett favorite. Rockman here says, I got in a week before the pullback in Apple, Facebook, Nvidia, AMD. I am still a little bit ahead, but not much. How worried should I be? I'm still new to this and don't understand what's going on. Look, a lot of people are coming into this stream. They're asking those kind of questions. Rockman, I don't think long-term you should be concerned, but of course, are you going to hold this particular position for a very long period of time? Are you going to want to trade it, or are you going to hold it? If you're going to hold it for a very long period of time and you've got more money in the back, then you can look at it as investing into it over time. If you're trading it, then yeah, you've got a different kind of situation. How far back can you let it go? Because obviously we're buying close to the highs. We may see a little bit further pullback in some of those stocks. Just quickly post some alerts here to a few people in the rooms, just to make sure they're aware that we're going live. And we'll get started with this overlay. I'll bring up a pen tool as well. All right. So yeah, to answer that question, don't be too concerned, but if it's your first time in the stocks and you feel like you want to cut down your risk because you couldn't handle it going down 10 to 20%, which is definitely possible in those shares, that's the kind of thing you want to think about. Always risk versus reward. I'll drum that into everybody throughout the streams. Risk versus reward as much as possible. That's pretty much what every big hedge fund manager will look at. Every big money manager, once you get in the hundreds of millions of dollars, all they care about is the risk. How much risk do I need to take for this reward? So yeah, news is not necessarily the best place to start, but obviously I've always said futures is a good place to start. Let's talk about this. Let's talk about what's happening here on the Nasdaq. The Nasdaq is leading the charge down. Now we saw pretty crappy Monday futures, and we did see Monday futures actually rotate up. In fact, in Australia here, in the ASX 200, we saw a bullish day followed by a further bullish day today and then selling off. So it just shows you that when you don't have the US lead, when you don't have the market of them all, which is the US leading you, often you do get some weird movements, and it's often a bit of a trap for retail traders like you or myself and other people to get involved in. You don't necessarily want to trade those kind of futures days over bank holidays, especially US ones. So we've got a big spike in the VIX today, obviously volatility coming in off the bell. We're hitting kind of the level that I actually expect the markets to find some support. They found support last week. We got 50 EMAs, which is in my video, I was talking about it, being hit on all the major indices, and that's going to be an important point. So we should see some support today in the open. We'll see whether people are buying. And obviously, if we do get further selling off on the Nasdaq underneath these zones, and especially 11,100 and 11,000 in general, then we could be going for a very nice pullback, big pullback back to 10,000. I wouldn't be surprised if that's the pullback back down there. I do not think, however, it is a crash scenario. I do not believe that. I believe that we probably will actually have new highs over the next 12 months. And not only that, we'll probably put on about 6 to 7, maybe even 10% further. Is Powell speaking anytime soon? So, okay, let's do this quick check. So we've got Brent and crude moving down. Crude was at a incredibly key resistance that we'll be going through on technicals, just talking about it. Crude's going probably now down to the 36-35 zone just to test that support. It makes sense. Big rollover, decent scalping opportunities, intraday trades that were had there on crude. We spoke about that on the Friday stream, talking about the weakness there. Obviously, VIX spiking, across the board down, some things up, some things down. Now, a lot of people will say, well, why the hell is gold not going up? Why is silver not going up? Why is Bitcoin not going up? And the reason, quite simply, is we've got US dollar strength. We're seeing US dollar strength across the board here, especially against things like, of course, the pound and some other pairs. So Bitcoin is now cracking under 10,000. I still think that this level here, though, is good support for Bitcoin. We'll be looking at the technicals on that. I've got that planned for the show later because Bitcoin is at a really good zone if we see the right price action. And yeah, really US dollar strength coming back into the markets. So quick just check of the futures there, quick check of the Forex, maybe even the crypto. You quickly check those screeners, you have an instant idea of what's going in the market. You know a bit about sentiment, you know bonds are up instantly, VIX is obviously up, Nasdaq, all of the rest down. Nasdaq's leading, so we're clearly seeing rotation out of stocks like the tech. So maybe we want to start saying, well, did we want to buy tech? Did we want to buy tech during the dip? What are our favorite tech stocks? Which are the stocks that are most likely going to get hit hardest? How do we figure that out? Well, I think one of the easiest ways to figure that out is to look at something like a stock screener. Stock screener specifically for something like potentially the most traded pairs. What are the ones that are most traded? Which ones are most popular right now? And then you go into those and you find out which ones. So we know that, of course, Tesla, NIO, AMD, Nvidia, all of those, Apple, all of those pairs have been most picked. Therefore, they're the ones that you expect to actually get smashed the most. And the reason why that is because they were pushed the furthest by the retail traders. It also makes sense that Wall Street will be smashing calls against all of these positions, especially Tesla. So I've got 13% down pre-market, which is pretty painful for Tesla long holders, but you should be expected to know this in terms of the moves because Tesla always moves this aggressively. It is an aggressive stock both ways. When it blows off hard. When it moves up hard. We've got here 4-hour 2050 potential cross here, 20 EMA, 50 EMA cross that could happen today. We're now going down to the key level. We said last week 340, 330 on Tesla. We're going to be hitting a lot of support. We have that 200 moving average here. If we go over to the daily, we'll be having quite a lot of good level support here. I, in fact, think that this is a very nice support. 50 EMA, previous resistance level. It makes sense for there to be buying pressure here. And even though it might seem like it's coming down like a ton of bricks, that's the kind of thing you're looking at. Obviously, the market may not like the deal between NIO and GM because maybe they see it as a threat to Tesla. I'm not so sure it's a real long-term threat, but yeah. Square and PayPal, yep, we'll look at those as well. So we've got some questions coming in here. I don't think Tesla is going to 200. I don't think it would before a pullback. Obviously, we're just talking about this zone. Key resistance bodies through here at the 330, the 50. Makes sense for it to be a level that there's going to be some technical support there. Pound bit of a pull down after Boris threatens to walk away. Yeah, absolutely, Gary. Totally agree. But at the same time, I think the main thing is the price action had shooting stars and we saw a decent rejection plus US dollar strength in general. I want to hold 1 to 5 years, then you'll be fine, Rockman. Hey, Tom, do you think about Middle East countries preparing to decouple from petrodollar? I think that it's a thing. I mean, basically, though, we're going to see a huge amount of decoupling across the world. The age of globalization being so popular is definitely over. Now we've got to think about which countries are able to actually create their own ecosystems, work in different kind of bubbles. We're going to have different country agreements. I don't think it's going to be full globalization anymore. Don't know if anyone agrees with me out there, but I do think the next decade is going to be multi kind of trade belts, I guess, would be the way I'd say it. Mooley says, lol, anyone that said BTC to infinity. BTC will move up over time. I have pretty big faith in that. Rotation, yeah, absolutely, Johnny. We're seeing a weakness, of course, more in the overbought pairs, which is obviously the tech stuff. We'll be going through all of it, though. There's heaps to cover today. Mike, yeah, we'll do both of those. MC, why the sell-off now? Why not after 2 to 3 weeks? That probably makes sense for them to go for it now. Remember, I talked about this. Sentiment was so bullish. If you said anything negative, and we also had that kind of VIX correlation last week, you were getting kind of abused for it. People did not believe that there could be a drop-off. It was peak euphoria. I always say this is the most important thing. You know, not many people know this, but when you get VIX moving up with stock, it's super bearish. I mean, like, it is like the number one bearish sign. Number one. It's so rare. I think I found the stats on it. It's like 83 times out of 3,600 days. Pretty rare. Pretty rare. So when it happens, you should pay attention. It doesn't mean straight away, but it does mean the next couple of months you're going to see that dip, and it will usually go under that date. That's for sure. BTC should technically hold around 10, but BTC versus the US dollar is going to find some problems. Let's have a quick look at this Fed balance sheet. Just quickly have a look at what's been going on here. So obviously with the Fed balance sheet, we've seen it pretty much stabilized around this level. I don't think they're doing any extra crazy purchasing or anything in particular. They've kind of stepped it back in some areas that haven't been needed and ramped it in other areas. A whole bunch of questions coming in here. I'll see if I can keep up with all of them. Thanks very much. All right. So, yep. So just as I said, news is more a thing that can get you in more trouble than it's worth. Follow the price action. If you want to get into technical analysis, price action will probably be the best key. And it's usually the way it goes. Now, I noticed a few people have been writing articles. Now we've got, suddenly we've got all these things from Goldman Sachs, JP, everybody else. Now they're saying, oh, don't worry, it's very, very long, but we expect a sell-off. I kind of technically agree with this kind of article, but I don't really like it when they say it. I rather they don't say it, if you know what I mean. I rather they say everything's great or everything's bad or something like that. Not like this in between. But they're obviously shooting for both sides. So yes, we've got Goldman and a few others saying that they expect around 10% down. Obviously, they're talking about the general kind of stocks in terms of the ones that are going to fall and not do so well. All right, let's go into a couple of pairs pre-market here. So we've got a couple of questions coming in for Square. I know it's a popular one. It's very similar kind of analysis to what we saw on Tesla. So Square is now down 6.41% pre-market. We're seeing it go at about 137 handle. I do expect it to potentially test the 133s again. The 137, 136 hits that 50 EMA on the daily. So if we do a bit of kind of top-down analysis, well, firstly, we see here that this particular stock has had an incredible run on it. So it has to really justify those figures. Now, I know it can from a certain fundamental standpoint, but we're still decently far away from the 20 moving average, which it hasn't touched yet on the weekly. We know it did touch it through the aggressive move. It was the first body candle during this period of 18 into the 19 kind of, consolidation. And then we've seen it move incredibly up. Now, obviously 100 would be a perfect buy zone for this, but we're not going to probably get that. Will we get any lower than 137? Well, if we get under this level here, this 133, I would say that we break under there, we close under there, then we go back to the 120, 117. We hit this 20, probably around 120, and then we would be seeing fairly aggressive buy-ups. I don't think it gets lower than that. Why? Because there is a huge amount of bullish aggressiveness here. But this is definitely an area where you expect a lot of nibbles, a lot of buys to come back in. Now, we've got to remember that's only really August pricing, at best July pricing. But that's not too bad. I mean, you're getting a decent discount on where it has been. Square will rise when BTC goes up. Fair enough, Mike. Yep. I think that Square definitely presents an okay opportunity here. There's two ways you can trade these things. You can just buy stuff because you want to get into it, but you can clearly see here when it broke past that 50, it really broke the trend. So we've broken the uptrend, we've broken the aggressive moves up, and now we're testing the lows. We get through a low like this though, it will come try to test this 120. And it could do so very quickly. So it's one of those ones where if you want to hold it for a long period, you believe in the company, like the company, really what you're using the technical analysis to do is to give you high quality zones that are going to get you into the area. And then you can move from getting into that area to, of course, then double dipping down and buying like the snippets at the right zones. Think of TA in stocks as a way of helping you make decisions on great price entries and great price exits. And then you can do your fundamental analysis to make sure you're buying a great company, kind of like a Buffett style with that. Buffett probably does use pricing. I would say he has some boffin that says buy it at these prices if you can. And then he says, I love this company, let's buy it. When he bought his Big Apple stake, he was buying it at a very good technical price. A very good technical price. S&P falling off a cliff. Yep, we'll look at all the indices in just a minute. Let's quickly look at VIX. VIX will be one to watch this week. Let's go that daily. I said this on the stream. I said this in the video, and I kind of stand with it. Basically, last time we saw the VIX go up so much over here on the left-hand side, notice it came down, similar to what happened here. We got the initial spike out, candle 1, we'll call it. Then we had the slightly high, followed by aggressive sell-off, candle 2. Then we had the aggressive VIX into the high, and then we saw the sell-off, and then, of course, stability. Now, if we do not make a new high here, I repeat, if we do not make a new high here, I think that we could be seeing a very similar situation as the flash crash that happened in June. So here's the flash. We're obviously in very quick market right now. Is that the similar thing? The VIX does this. This is the way Wall Street are manipulating it. I think we want to see continuation of the VIX growing. The VIX going up, the fear coming up. This is not the continuation yet. We need to see it up here. I expect the VIX to kind of get here at the same point we're hitting the 50 EMAs, we're hitting that 11,100, the 11,000 on the Nasdaq. If it breaks through that zone, then obviously on to the next level. But until the VIX is above there, if the VIX kind of goes and rejects that level again, that's not a good sign for people that are waiting for a longer short, bigger short. There's not a good sign. Does that make sense to everybody out there? MC actually asked a question about the VIX, so hopefully I answered to your question there, MC. Johnny says, I'm going to tell Benzinga to hire Tom. Thanks, mate. There are multiple ETFs for playing VIX. It's definitely a question for American audience. Understand the leverage when you play and only for short term. Absolutely. Absolutely, Siddharth. These VIX funds, they eat money. And what I mean by that is they are negative. Go and have a look at a VIX fund on a monthly and watch what happens to it over time. Yeah, you get destroyed trading VIX over the long period. You don't want to hold VIX for long. It is an in and out day trade, intraday trade, week, maybe 2 weeks. You do not want to be holding that baby too long. What's this, Shane? I like buying things cheaper. Absolutely. Yes, we all do. Think it's going to be a stock picking week. I don't think everything is going down. You are absolutely correct, Johnny. Absolutely. This is a rotation. Let's go back to the FinViz for a quick second. For any new viewers of the channel, thank you very much for being here, by the way. Probably got a few new people out there. Make sure you use finviz.com, forexfactory.com or something like that for the calendar. And then, of course, TradingView if you want to do TA or whatever broker you're using. It's always good to see. Now, if we look at last week's kind of movements, let's go to a heat map here. We instantly see, obviously, banks. We see generally insurance diversified, regionals, beverages, some of these. These did not get hit very hard. It was all in the sectors that have been going up. So obviously, tech is looking at buy the dip. These are the ones that kind of got the aggressive moves, and the rest are kind of holding very, very firm. So we are not seeing a multi-sector sell-off here like you usually do see in market crashes. This is a rotation out of rip-off stock, basically, at the time. I call it rip-off stock because they inflated it fairly high, obviously got a huge amount of buy call in euphoria. Long-term, it will not be rip-off stock, of course. S&P down 1.21 now, Nasdaq down 3. We certainly will be looking at the SPX and everything like that. So just quick reminder, Tesla down 16. I know this is one that's watched. And of course, Nikola up very huge. And that we mentioned that VIX stuff. Nvidia also down 7, coming down to that 50 EMA. Almost every single one of these big overbought kind of tech stocks that's dipping right now is coming down to the 50 EMA. But notice the aggressive sell-off. Look, I feel for people that buy these levels. Obviously, it sucks. But you know that the trend's been up. It's a good company. The thing with this, though, is that these aggressive sell-offs, they always happen when you get these very euphoric kind of markets. That's the nature of growth. And if you've never been in a growth stock, this is the nature of the dump that we get. You just have to hope you bought a good one. All right, let's have a look at that US 500, SPX, all of those types of things. We will go to... No, we won't go to that screen because I want to talk about that later. We'll use this one. We'll use the futures, I think, because the futures is probably the one that's been trading for a little bit. So S&P 500, what are our thoughts? Well, on Friday, we obviously expected the S&P to probably try to come down to the 3330. It got down to the 3350, which turned out to be a monthly S1 pivot. If you don't use monthly pivots or anything like that, it might be worthwhile considering putting pivots on your screen. On the TradingView platform, what you can do is you can just search pivot. You can then find all these pivots. Maybe try this one here, pivot point CPR. It gives you monthly, weekly, dailies, high lows, all that type of stuff. You can chuck that on there. So we had an S1 down here. I like to put the pivots on the SPX code, okay? So put it on the real market. Don't worry about the futures. Futures pivots will be slightly different because of the nature of the trade of that day. Use the real market volume. If you're looking at the Nasdaq, use the real market volume. I'll stress that heaps. That's where the real TA should be had. So we could see it down to this 50 here. We got 2 touches of the 50 EMA before. Remember this, 2 touches. It means that it supported this zone and it liked it. It found support there. Does that mean that we could get a little bit lower? Sure, we could go to the 3,300, but I would expect a bounce off this zone. There's a lot of money on the sidelines. We saw aggressive buying here. We may see aggressive buying again. Plus, you can't really go too wrong if you're buying the American market in general, the S&P 500, and you have a little bit of money potentially left over to buy further dips. If we got a 3,200, obviously we're going into great structure then. So we've got structure at 3,300, previous resistance. We've got a 50. We've got a good level being the 3,300, and we've got a decent dip down at that point as well. Remember, we're buying kind of all of the stocks, so we're not just buying the Nasdaq, which is pretty much, 50% in just the FANG stocks, really. 3,200, 3,300 still makes sense to me this week. I would like to see a bounce off 3,300, 3,330 area. All right, I've got some other questions coming in here. Thank you very much for all the subscriptions. Appreciate that. All right, what are we going through here? Whole bunch of stuff. I don't know that stock too well, Mike. I might have a look at it later if we have time. I feel for you, but definitely everyone else listen to Naren Muru. I've held VIX for 2 months. It's been so painful. Unfortunate, but yes. It's expensive. Know the contract that you're trading. If you're somebody that goes into futures, if you go into wheat, you're crazy. I'll say that right now. I lost a whole bunch of money in wheat back when I was trading. I didn't realize how much a futures swap contract was. And it was one of my first trades. I thought, wouldn't it be cool? I was looking at the wheat chart. I thought, wouldn't it be cool? This is obviously undervalued. In 3 years, I'll come back. My wheat will be worth more. And guess what? Got blasted on the first roll. So yeah, that's what can happen, unfortunately. So we're down here 1.72% pre-market for the US 500. And basically, we are seeing potential tests of the lows straight into the market. I'd be interested to see whether the low dip instantly buys off as well. If we crack that down to the 3330, 3300, I think it makes sense. Let's take a look at that Nasdaq now as well. Nasdaq already at the level. It is already at the level. It hit in the pre-futures pretty much around the level we'd look at. Now, when you're looking at a level, you want to just draw a range. So what I mean by that is you just highlight an area. You basically rectangle up the area that you're looking at. And then once it hits your alert, so you set an alert in TradingView or another program, then you go into the smaller time frames, go into the 5 minute, go into the 15 minute, look for the lightning bolt effects. Let's go down to a 5 minute for a quick second here and just talk about what I'm saying. So basically what you might have here is you might have a 5 minute doing this and then it bulls off. Then it comes down quickly and then it makes a new high. This is what I call the lightning bolt effect. And if you learn anything out of today's stream, this actually is not a common technique that people use. It's a change of trend basically on this time frame. And when you use it into your combined multi-time frame top-down analysis approach, use it in Forex, use it in stocks, use it in, it doesn't really matter what you're using it in, except for soft commodities, then you will have more success. Why is this? Well, we're waiting for a trough, waiting for a peak, waiting for a higher trough, and then we're waiting for that higher peak. We're effectively waiting for the market momentum, the little algorithms, whatever else is going on, to say on that time frame, we have changed trend, we are going long, we are bullish in this case. It can work, of course, to the bearish side as well. But you're doing it in your zone, which is the area that you want to buy it in. You're doing your analysis on a time frame that matters, and then you're doing your little kind of technique on the time frame that is better. Now, why is that also beneficial? Well, if you're a scalper, if you're an intraday trader, if you're a day trader, I don't care whatever anyone wants to call themselves. I think it all is the same thing really in some ways. The way we can do it is we're using the timeframes that matter with the big money. The daily, the weekly, the 4 hour, these all matter a lot because guess what? That's where kind of the big traders come in for the day of trade and they look at all these and they care. They care about these timeframes. Do they care about your 5 minute chart? Not really. They don't so much. We need to realize that as scalpers. But when we're looking at the smaller, we're looking at the zone and we've done our analysis on the bigger time frames and then we've found our cool little level in that, like the 5 minute, the 15 minute, there's more chance of statistical success. And when we can add an extra 5 or 10% onto our trade, onto our investment, onto whatever, then we're doing better. So that's a bit of a tip that I would always say to everybody. Draw your zones, create your kind of area that you're interested in, then dial into the smaller time frames. Absolutely. Oh, thanks very much for all the subscriptions out there, by the way. Appreciate that. Tom, do you have any videos on your position sizing? Feel most people blow up their accounts by going all in on a few plays. Hey, look, I've got a good free bit of content actually on fxevolution.com. If you want to go to that, I'll just type it in if no one knows. This is our, we do have training website. Obviously, you always diversify any business that you're in. And there's a Presic account builder that has a good way of sizing up your account over time if you want to trade it up. So that might be worthwhile checking out. Tesla getting hammered? Absolutely it is. I also think this Nikola news does not help Tesla's sentiment. because they would have wanted, they don't like it when there's competition, of course. Again, I don't really think I'd care too much, but if I was a long-term holder, but I understand it. It seems like big news. I'm sure it'll be spruiked as massive news. Graham says, I think S&P 500 will bump up. Will be interesting to see sentiment if COVID cases spike in US after the Labor Day holiday. TradingView has sizing tool all built in. It certainly does. My one on the website's more about account building, but I think with as Graham said, TradingView has the scaling. So you definitely want some kind of account builder for sure. So US 100 is finding the support that I guess we should expect, at least on the smaller time frames. This is a key zone. Previous lows coming into market open. Very interesting. We saw some bullish movement as well on, of course, today, and then it just sold off rather aggressively in the futures. Remember, this is futures trade. Futures trade means nothing. I think Tesla is always going to make sure they keep those bonus targets. We'll see. A lot of people, definitely think that the market doesn't care so much about the cases. I definitely think that the market, if the market was going to care about the cases, it would have already done so. It obviously cares about Uncle Jerome. Uncle Jerome matters, and that's the thing. Long term, we will have kangaroo-style market because of the relative problems that we're going to have jump-starting the economy again. But overall, I still bet on the US doing very well. And the main reason why is I think there's going to be some amazing companies come out of this. There's going to be some amazing tech, some amazing ingenuity. It's going to be very cool. Now, some of the other indicators that I use when I'm looking at whether we're going to have a market crash or not is copper. Copper acts incredibly badly, and I mean very negatively, if the market is crashing. We are not seeing copper acting negatively right now. Here's a copper's futures chart. We're down 1.18%. We have not even got a new low out of copper yet, and it often precurses. Remember, copper was getting belted from the 15th of Jan. The stock market went on to make a new high. Copper it absolutely got destroyed. And then copper kind of corrected, and then copper got destroyed again during that second haul. Now, at this point, that was key support, by the way, on copper. That was very nice support there at 2.5. So right now, we've cracked to a new high. Copper is still looking relatively bullish. We've obviously come off the 20 here a few times. We haven't even tested the 50 or 2.9. And I think that is really my main thing for, if you do not see a crash, you will not see a crash when copper is this high. My opinion only. Not sure if you agree with me, but definitely I'll have a rant about it. So PJ, if you approach close to the zone target area, e.g. resistance, would you trail, stop, or get out? Because price will almost always retrace at these levels. Yeah, if you correctly identify a level. So say here with copper, it's a great case. So say here with copper, your price range is 3. Okay. Well, firstly, that's a rookie mistake going for 3, because you always know that the market doesn't like it. Kind of stops just before. It's like a stock. It goes $99 instead of 100, or $99.50 instead of 100, something like that. Yeah. So what you want to do is you create your rectangle range, and then you alert the rectangle. So again, similar style, draw your rectangle. So here's our 3. So we might have a 20 cent kind of range or 10 cent range, whatever it might be. You draw it a bit better than I'm doing it right now, but you get the idea. And then basically what you want to do is you then go in once you've hit those alerts and look for change of time frames on maybe an hour, on maybe something like that. So maybe here you see it make a high, it hits your target anyway, that's cool. But what if it did something like this? What if it came up, went down, came up, went down? So it made a high, it made a low, or this is a peak, this is a trough, this is a lower peak, and then a lower trough. We've got a change of time frame trend on the 1 hour. That is negative, and we don't like that. So we get out of that because we want to see bullish aggression into our resistance. So that is a X. Get out of that trade and run. Something like that would always be worthwhile checking out. Do I trade CFDs? Yes. I like all all trading instruments are cool, except for binary options. No binary options, all right? Nobody should be doing that. That is a scam, in my opinion. I hate them. I think they're banned in many countries now. Someone can correct me if I'm wrong there, but binary options are not cool. I have the magnet on. Yeah. Yeah, that's right, Daniel. Today's going to be a massacre. It certainly could be, but remember, we're hitting key support here on several key indices, and we're doing it all pre-market. So still going down here on Square. We've got Square now at 135.63 handle. Not good. But that's okay. Remember, it's all about these indices. Don't so much look at the stock. If you're looking at like a basket of stocks, Apple, Google, Facebook, they're all going to move relatively similarly because of the nature of the industries. And overall, you just want to see that Nasdaq hit key levels. Use the S&P, use the Nasdaq, use the Russell, the Dow as your guideline for sentiment. And then what you want to do is bring in indexes. So I said I'll do a stream on it. I will do it eventually, where basically we go through all the market sectors, we bring them up on TradingView, and then what we're going to do is we're going to find strong sectors that are accumulating, sectors that are doing different things, and then you'll see during a normal market time that isn't a pandemic crisis that how you actually trade, how you find the opportunity before other people do it. And you can do it all with technicals. Look at the indices. Well, here's one that's come in, so they want to look at is it financials? Yeah. So financial sector. So you'll see here's the financial sector. Go to the daily quickly. So basically the financial sector obviously got bashed. Then it's had some pretty nice moves. So one of the ones was the breakout here. Notice how the breakout happens, super high, comes back down, accumulates, double bottoms here, then breaks through. This rectangular area here is super cool to trade. So basically, if we were looking for buys, this would be super buy zone, specifically after we get the breakout above the moving averages here. This is a beautiful buy for people that got in. Probably when just after that Buffett bought. But it's a very nice buy. Here we are basically tracking at 25.76. It's a very nice level. Obviously get through that. What we expect, similar TA than normal. The 200 moving average here on the daily, which does matter. The 200 simple. We know it matters because it kind of hugged that zone before and it found resistance before. If it gets through, it suddenly becomes support. So then what we could do is we can wait for it to come back down, pick the lightning bolt up, take it long. 27, obviously the next kind of target, gets through 27, then we're looking at previous kind of highs over here. It's just that kind of idea. I use it all the time. It's the same kind of process. Can we take a look at US dollar CAD? We will look at all dollar indices in just a minute. Absolutely. All right, we'll go back through here. A few questions. Agree, Tom. Copper is a good indicator. Used so much coming out of recession. Certainly is. Copper is a cool metal out of recessions. Worthwhile having a bit of copper. Jimmy does not like binary options. You're the man, Jimmy. Absolutely. I do not like them either. Tesla may even crack my 333.45 support level before the open. Well, no, I'll have a look. We'll be watching it together, won't we? We'll see. Do I use algo detectors? No, I don't, Victor. Doesn't mean they don't work. I just don't use them. I only trade indices, so I'm looking at S&P 500 mainly. Never touch Nasdaq because of its parabolic nature. I think it's worthwhile touching different indices, Gemini, but I totally understand why. Yeah, S&P 500. Look, if you invest only in the indices, it's boring, sure, but it's not bad. I will say this though, I think that the next 10 years we could have problems in the indices. And what I mean by that is we might have a bit of stagnation. You might actually find sector buying could be better. Certain sectors, because some sectors are not going to do well out of this recession. You didn't miss too much, MC. We're just talking about a whole bunch of different things. Mostly we're talking about Nikola news, all that type of stuff. What's the absolute bottom for Apple? Ooh, that's a good question. That is a good question. What is the bottom for a great stock? I think that there'll be a huge amount of buying at 100, a huge amount if it got there, and then obviously absolute bottoms, probably previous structure resistance. I don't think you're getting it though, because you're going to have a 200 there at the same time. You know, it's all there, even if it did flash crash through. I just don't think it's going to do something like that. Apple has a lot going for it. It obviously has an ecosystem, it has 5G phones, it has, you know, a lot of people moving online. It deserves to be higher than it was. It does. So I think 100 is the second buy zone. Obviously, this 110 is kind of the area that hits the 50. It makes sense. We saw the strong buying coming into the back end of Friday. Apple is a loved stock. It makes sense to fall off the hype and euphoria, but yeah, maybe we only go as low as July. What's the $80 PE? I don't know, but someone could probably work that out. MMA gear. Tom, are we going into a circuit breaker? I don't think so tonight, considering pre-market. Now, for anyone that was watching the crash during March, wow. Well, how many circuit breakers were there? I think it was probably about 3 or 4. That was wild, those circuit breakers, but I don't think we're going into one of those today. Circuit breakers need a lot to be triggered, and we're not going to see something like that. Well, we never say never, but unlikely. These numbers don't seem to look like that. And again, we're not seeing that key indicator copper getting like really heavily hit right now. Obviously, there is the chance here for a big double top, and we could see like 3008, 3008, and we crack through the 295. That suddenly creates a double top. You know, it definitely is there to be there on the 4 hour as well. Copper prices poised to extend gains. Not that this means anything amid global manufacturing rebound. Overall, though, copper's looking bullish. So Apple, pretty much the 50. All of these 50s are key. 50s on almost all stocks. You look at Square. You go to the daily. The 50. The 50 is being reached. 135 now on the pre-handle. 7% down. Bit of insider selling, I believe, in this particular pair as well. Let's take a look at some of the other ones. Let's go to the dollar index and do some analysis there. So gold's coming under fire here. It's coming under the support line that we've talked about. This 1915 was key support here on the 1 hour, 4 hour for quite a while. We've basically seen it hug this zone, and it's been hugging it. We're about to potentially see our first body close under this zone. Notice again, we have not seen any body closes under the 1915 for quite a while. We have, however, seen a weakening trend. This is higher than this. This is higher than that. It's like kind of a crazy ascending kind of or descending kind of triangle. But realistically, this is just a key level sup. We get through that sup, all of a sudden we're testing lows again. We're testing back in the 1880. I would say 1900 doesn't matter too much for it. It'd probably be the 1880. It's right there right now though for gold. And this is because DXY strength. So let's go over to DXY and do some analysis there. So DXY is coming right up to the 93 kind of 30 zone, the key resistance that we expect it to potentially find some resistance at. We mentioned this last week in the stream. We mentioned this last week on the channel. It gets through this zone, comes back down. All of a sudden, we're looking at pretty decent buy opportunities on the dollar index, and this rectangle over here sitting at the 93.80 to 94 zone is the key resistance. We break through that, again, get through, come down, conservative kind of entrances. All of a sudden, we're seeing very bullish dollar. This is the key. This is the key zone. We are about to break through. I think we have broken through now the 20 on this. So let's have a look. Let's load up that DXY here. We got through here, it looks like the daily 20. That's the first daily 20 clean crack if we get it done for quite a while. So that's a bullish sign, but I think it makes more sense here when we look at the daily. There's 93.80 to 94. The 50 will be here. All of a sudden we get above that. We are looking at very bullish dollar, at least to 95, if not 96. Quickly throw your gold out of the window. I would not be that fast on saying gold is gold is bad. Bullish or bearish on Bitcoin long term? I guess I'm kind of bullish on it. I guess I am. But I'm not bullish so much on any particular crypto. I'm just bullish on the idea. Well, I like blockchain. I do. I think it's the future. I think the biggest problem is Do you hold a coin that's really well known that potentially has some failings, or do you bet on blockchain and therefore buy companies that are going to benefit from blockchain? Is that the better move? Because we all know that the US dollar is going to become a crypto coin. It will. Every other country will also do it. It is a taxation benefit. And when you get a country making money and easy track money, and they can always collect their tax and know where all the dollars are, then it makes sense for them. So crypto in its own blockchain technology is massive for that. It's the internet 2.0. I agree with that aspect. 7% is first circuit breaker. Absolutely. What is a circuit breaker? Circuit breaker is basically where the market hits a crazy kind of level, which is 7% down. Usually does not happen. Flash crash basically, and it has like a bit of a breather. They close it for a little while. I originally actually thought circuit breakers were closed for the whole day, but they only closed for a 15-minute. Long time ago, I thought that. Nvidia getting hit? Absolutely. And it's because it was a super overbought sector. We'll check that out in 1 second. So again, dollar index, we see continued strength here. We get through the 93.40. Smaller time frames will probably be buying through to the 93.80, 93.80, 94. We get above that. We are super bullish dollar index for now. That's a real... People always say, oh, well, you know, today you don't know what's going on. Well, when you get through these kind of zones, you know what's going on. These are the key levels. If someone comes to you and says, what's going to happen to gold in the next 3 years? I don't know. Who does? Yeah. If you really knew, you'd be a beast. But what you can do is make educated statistical choices at key areas that you know are very likely to happen due to the price action, due to the fundamentals, due to everything else that's going on. You can make statistical great choices. You just can't do it every day. Bullish on Tesla sentiment. We'll look at Tesla again coming into the market. Don't you worry for everyone out there. I know everyone's interested in Nikola and Tesla. Just again, for any newcomers, Nikola obviously GM partnership, GM to receive $2 billion in Nikola stock. It's pushed Nikola up. We are probably coming off the hype in the pre-market. I hate to know who got hurt in that pre-market already, but we were up about 45% 45 minutes ago. So 45% 45 minutes ago, now only 28%. So that's some pretty wild trading. We will certainly bring this chart up and watch this one during the fireworks. In fact, we might even load it up next to, let's load it up next to Tesla and have that ready for when we see some market open. All right, so here's our Tesla, obviously 14% down right now. We mentioned the 333.40 structure. We talked about that. We'll talk about that again. We'll load this onto the daily here just to bring that up. Nice. Buffett bet on gold. He is forward-looking. Buffett obviously did buy the gold company. US will have an inflation problem. Yes, long-term they will. Baba, we'll have a look at it. So Baba obviously did a breakout in one of our live streams. We were talking about how great that breakout was. It went crazy, if I remember rightly, after that. Hit about another 20%. Bitcoin is in an uptrend. Let's look at Bitcoin together. So we'll go BTC. Actually, I'll use this one. So good thing about Bitcoin is I think it trades very nice technically now. So we talked about the double bottom over here and how it was kind of signaling that 12K. But let's have a look at the structure here. Let's see the formation on Bitcoin. What is going on? So we've got here a 10-6 kind of resistance on the 4-hour, and we've got a very nice support just under the 10,000, just around this 99 kind of 2099 area. Now, very roughly, we've got basically a channel forming in here. We've got a structure formation in this area. Why is that important? Well, the longer it does it here, the longer it coils or accumulates or anything, if it then breaks to the upside, that's awesome for buyers, because not only has it considered this level, but when you consider where this level is around the 10,000, it's very, very significant to long-term buy. Now we are getting almost a 2050 across the downside. We'd rather not see that. We'd rather see aggressive buying off here. But we go out, we look at the zone, we look at the area, and the area makes sense. We've got previous kind of resistances all the way through this structure here. So again, can we go long on it right now? I wouldn't just buy it randomly right now. But what I usually do as a trader is I'd look at 10.6, I'd look for a break above that, and then I would probably take it. I like to wait a little bit longer. I don't necessarily get the best price, but what I do get is I get the momentum flow through. Remember, trying to pick the biggest and best price is not always the smart play. What you want to do is you want to buy when the market is momentum running in that direction. And that comes with, a lot of sitting there and making the same mistake over and over again. That's what you don't want to necessarily do. So yeah, I quite like BTC USD at these prices, but I would love to see it crack up here. You can even trade within the structure. Obviously, if you buy a zone like this, what are you doing? Well, you're basically saying I'm buying a range, and you buy a range and you say, okay, well, I've got to put my stop loss underneath here, and I can put my take profit either halfway through the channel or at the top. Usually you want to do it halfway to 2/3 the way through, ideally, whenever you're trading a channel or kind of structure range. But they're high kind of reward trades. They're just high risk. And you need to know you're going to lose maybe 5 of them or 6 of them or 7 of them out of 10, but you're going to get 5-to-1 payoffs because your stop loss have to be very, very small. Rockman says 50 minutes to slaughter time. 40 minutes now, isn't it? No, I don't think so. Let's not wish on the slaughter. We don't want markets going down ideally too much. Not too fast. Slow and steady down makes sense, hopefully, and then slow and steady up. That's the best thing, but that doesn't create the fireworks. Yes, we have talked about Nasdaq, but we will go back over Nasdaq. We'll probably do that 20 minutes before. We'll go Nasdaq, S&P, Dow, Russell, everything like that. TGB, what is this? Send your questions through here. This is supposedly a copper stock, is that correct? Is this the one? Taseko Mines. Well, it says copper project. Very nice for whoever was buying copper here. It's often a good way of doing it. Look, Buffett buys gold in a gold stock, and obviously you can buy copper in a copper stock rather than buying a futures. Yeah, it's very similar breakout. Obviously, it's an aggressive kind of move here. And just to show you the dangers and perils of owning these stocks, let's see if this one's been around for a while. Oh yeah, good. So here is a classic case of why you want to own this copper for only a little bit of time. So we have GFC, yeah? We have a massive sell-off of this stock. Then economy starts to rebound, just like silver, not gold, but silver. It is an aggressively bought metal, just like iron ore as well, out of recessions because it's used in economic rebuilds. Governments are not going to stop building stuff to get out of economic problems. They always do it. China specifically does it, and therefore they have big orders on this kind of thing. So you see that massive aggressive move up to the 2011 highs, very similar to silver, and then of course it gets dumped off, and then it becomes the worst investment for the next decade. So you do not want to hold copper forever. You hold copper during the right time. It's a right time, right place kind of thing. But yeah, I don't know anything about this thing, but that's what I guess I'll say there. If you believe in economic recovery, that's the type of thing that you're looking at. Obviously, you've got to make your own decisions. BTC is kin to a stock more than a currency. When accepted as a currency, it's converted back to cash. Sure. Why do prices still move after market? Futures markets. So futures, people are still trading them. Obviously, the more robust a financial system gets, the more times that are allowed to trade. So futures markets have been expanded over the years. I don't remember US stocks a decade ago. Do I remember them trading that long? I think they trade a hell of a lot more now than they used to. I'm not a big fan of futures trading too much. I think you get a lot of fake signals, which is the biggest problem with them. But yeah, that's why it is futures trading. So let's have a look now at the Russell 2000. Now, if you haven't ever checked the Russell 2000, it's basically the 2000 small companies. And I think, correct me if I'm wrong, Apple is basically as large as all of these companies put together now. But basically, this shows me whether we're going into an economic collapse again. So it's very sensitive to economic collapses generally, this particular Russell. Now we saw what happened obviously during the GFC. We saw what happened during this crash. I was talking about this being the weaker index if, of course, the Fed weren't able to bail out the market. We have not necessarily seen the biggest move down on the Russell 2000. The Russell 2000 isn't really a tech kind of index. We look at the FTSE, which is the UK 100, and we talk about what's going on there. Well, it's actually not doing that bad. So again, this is mostly hitting the US tech right now. We're seeing a rotation more than anything else. That's why we're seeing that copper moving up. It's not really a crash so much. It's more of a correction on the right kind of things that should be correcting. VIX up 15. Also remember, US tech is incredibly susceptible to US-China tensions. If we believe those tensions are going to simmer and continue to get worse, then tech will be hit. Some are talking about red October crash. Look, I think it makes good YouTube videos. Look, yeah, September's the weak month. October's often a weak follow-up, and we do see that October is predominantly a weaker month in actually presidential election years. However, it's probably not going to be. I think it would be very random for the market to crash before the election. I think, as I said, kangaroo market is more likely, where we see aggressive moves each way, a huge amount of trading activity. Wall Street wouldn't want to stop the party. They want the party to continue. They want a huge amount. This volume, this increased retail, everyone here that's watching right now, how many of you are new traders? How many of you just got interested in the stock market this year? They want a party for a while. Do I believe long-term bull trend is over? No. I think it's on still. I think pullbacks might happen. They might be aggressive. We'll go back over to the indexes in just a minute, but the indices, but I don't think it's over. There's a huge amount of money backing these, and the more you print, they still have to find something. I just don't think that the current valuations on some of these stocks were worth it. So yeah, just always put things in perspective. We talked about that VIX. Remember the analysis that we did at the start of this session? We talked about how the VIX had the big bull run out of the gate in terms of the daily. We had it again. We then had the VIX make a new high and then sell off. We had it again. Then we had the VIX come up and test the high. We're yet to see what happens here. Until we make a new VIX high, we need a new VIX high. We do not know that the fear is truly back in the market. Yes, the flash cash fear is in the market, but it's a very similar setup to over here. And what happened after that? Obviously, it came back down to its 20. So I wouldn't pay too much attention necessarily to the VIX giving us a strong crash signal right now. I think the VIX is doing the right thing for the dips and where we're at. Crude oil getting smashed, yes. It was sitting there for quite a long time. We look at US oil. And let's just quickly talk about this. Let's go to the monthly. Notice the monthly hits a key level. If you don't have monthlies on your charts, if you don't put key support resistance levels on them, please start doing so. It'll help you out a lot with your trading. Notice here, previous SUPs. Everyone can see this SUP, this 44.51. We've got previous support, support, support. These are body closes around these zones as well. And that's on a monthly. And then it comes up just before starts hovering. Let's go down to a weekly, have a look what happens there. We still have it hovering. Hits the 50 EMA here. We can see there's a bit of wick, so we've got the range. Remember, if your target is exactly the point, you will lose. You want to take it slightly earlier. And then we go down to the daily, and then what have we got through? We just got through all of these moving averages. We were basically sitting here petering out. This is the crappiest uptrend ever. That's nothing. Nothing was going on. We start to flash crash off. Obviously here we go down potentially in $5 increments. We've got that kind of 35 previous SUP over here, previous resistance. That'll be kind of a first zone around that area. And then this is really strong support, this 28.30 zone where we had previous kind of resistance before it broke through. The other thing is that with this many moving averages, if it does come back up now, it's going to hit a massive wall. So you're going to have 20, 200, and 50 all coiling at around the $40 by the time it gets back up. And that's going to act as resistance. So it gives you an opportunity as well to then say, okay, I'm interested in the zone. Well, then let's wait for the lightning bolt in the smaller time frames, that kind of peak, trough, lower peak, lower trough, and then get into the short side. Again, crude is not one you necessarily want to hold. If you want to buy crude and you want to hold it long term, you're better off looking at maybe an exchange traded fund of oil or something like that. Maybe even just oil companies in general. Got a great turnout tonight or today. Good morning to everybody. Good afternoon wherever you are in the world, or good evening if you're in Australia like me. Thank you very much for being here. Appreciate everyone subscribing as well. Really do appreciate that. Remember, we're giving away $500 just for being a subscriber towards your trading or investing account when we hit 20K. So I do appreciate each and every one of you out there. You just have to be in it, and we'll draw it live. So I'm excited to give it away. We'll look at GM. Yeah, let's look at GM. And we got to go back over some of these indices again. Keep those questions coming in. We'll answer as much as we can. So GM is up pre-market. So it was actually down before. Now it's up $32 almost pre-market, testing that resistance. Obviously, the market does like this news. They think it's a match made in heaven. Doesn't interest me, this one, guys. But I'm not particularly interested in cars in terms of car manufacturers and stuff. I find it all not an area of my expertise. But if you like it, then yeah, absolutely. I don't mind Tesla so much because I think it's more of a sentiment-driven market, but these particular old-school car companies, it's not really for me. Good afternoon then if you're in the UK. I've been told that it's only 2 o'clock in the UK. Good afternoon. All right, so go a whole bunch of questions coming in. Let's answer it. Who's advising 100% BTC? Yeah, don't. That's, well, look, I mean, I can't give advice on this channel. I just try to teach people how to make their own decisions and find their own stuff using things that I've learned about over the years. But 100% in any asset is psycho. ASX is soft, absolutely. How does Bitcoin differ from publicly traded shell companies with a finite number of shares? Yeah, I mean, supply and demand, basically, isn't it? It's got a miniature amount of stuff. Obviously, it's very hard to mine it nowadays, and eventually hits a cap. So, yeah, I guess it doesn't really differ from that. I mean, it has a limited amount. It has that scarcity. Scarcity is very, very important. It's kind of like when you go and buy, what is it, like a Louis Vuitton bag or something, and it's really popular, or those Supreme shirts or whatever. I don't know. Someone was selling a Supreme brick for like $100 or maybe $1,000 because it's limited and it had Supreme written on it a few years ago. Then it suddenly became amazing. But if there was 10,000 Supreme bricks, no one would want it. Statistically, crashes occur in October. Yep, so September is usually the month that leads in. So August, September, October, all historically pretty bad months. Let's actually go over that. So let's load up this US 500 for a second. Actually, we'll load up the SPX so we have the bigger history. And let's have a quick look at what has happened in the past, because whether you want to admit it or not, obviously this year it seems like things in the past don't work. But what you'll find is that we often do have kind of weaker months. So here's September last year. Now, obviously we had that little bit of a sell-off. We had middle of September, and then we had that little bit of a sell-off here. Yeah, so we did have a bit of a dip, and it turns out that August was pretty much a dip. So we had dip August, dip September. Did we have that kind of before May sell-off? We even had that as well. So we actually had all of the kind of trifecta of things that people know. Then we go over to the year before, and we can see here that that was end of September. We saw the dip into October. Obviously, then we had that tensions with US and China. So in this case, it was still September that led it, and then it went into October in terms of the fall. Then we go back to the year before that, and I think that was pretty bullish year. Let's have a look over here. So we had the August slight dip, followed by September strength, and then you keep going back basically. And what you'll notice is that generally speaking, you have weaker Septembers, and that's usually where it kind of starts. And that's why I said it. That's why I made the video on it. Like, here's September, there's the dip. We have a crappy August with nothing going on, but then we have the dip afterwards. So it does make sense for October potentially be weak, but again, we are in an election year, things change. Statistically, we have generally fairly flat markets, if not slightly negative October into November elections in the US. That's statistics. I pulled them over a long period of time, over every election that matters, and that's statistics. We are in a pretty hyperactive market, but again, it's mostly tech being sold off right now. Yeah, we'll look at Nvidia. We need to do that. So there's some of the bigger sell-offs that have kind of occurred. Generally, this one here does not happen, okay? The sell-off, this was unusual. I remember I was trading Christmas kind of day, like Boxing Day, those kind of days. I couldn't believe it. Like, well, that's the first year in all of my trading career, my investing career, that I was actually looking at the market around Christmas and cared. Because usually it's a Santa rally. Santa rally is statistically incredibly likely. Look up the Santa rally if you don't know what it is. Write it down on the paper if you're old school like me. Put it on your thing. Make sure you understand Santa rallies. They help you out. Nvidia, we need to look at that. Yes. What's a good price to get into Amazon? All right, let's do a couple of these big popular tech stocks that every single person wants to own. One of them being Nvidia. So we have here a 474 handle coming into the pre-market. It's very similar to all the rest. I think we're going back to the 50. Let's see if we can get it. That's 456 here. Obviously, we'd need to make a new low here. This is a particularly overbought stock. So it's a particularly hot stock. Now, how far have we gone back? We've just gone back to basically the start of August. If we get back to this kind of 450, 455 area. Does make some sense for big buying off this level. Now, Nvidia just released, for anyone that doesn't know or isn't a gamer, they just made a pretty decent card. And I think it would be very, very popular. It'll sell out probably straight away. Here's something that I did warn people of though, significant insider selling of shares in Nvidia. So yes, the director officer has been selling shares like a hotcake for a little while now. And I'd made a video on it because I thought it was significant. Nvidia specifically, this guy's dumping a huge amount of shares. Now, it doesn't mean the company's crappy, but it's never good when you see these guys selling them. He always does sell a huge amount. So he always does sell a huge amount. He's been cashing for quite a while, but he likes to especially sell bigger portions when it's going up so aggressively. So the 50 makes some sense. Let's go over the weekly, have a look, because really you're looking at these bigger timeframes trying to figure out 400 would be the next kind of zone. So we get through that area, and we're probably going all the way back down to 400, hitting the 20, and I really would expect the psychological zone plus the 400 to find support. And if it got through there, I mean, 300's a super buy zone. And I don't think it's getting there. But if it is, you set an alert, because resistance, boy oh boy, is there going to be buying there. There's going to be huge buying there. I don't care what sentiment's doing. That will be aggressive buying. There's a great place to get some Nvidia. I don't think it happens though, because really where we are right now is too high, and there's still way too much money on the sidelines. It is extremely overvalued. But yeah, this from a structure point of view, 300, 400, they're just psychological numbers. The 400 intersects with the 20, makes sense. And then of course on the smaller kind of periods here, we have the 450. Around this 450 zone, draw a box, look for the smaller timeframes. Nvidia is my biggest position. I can't remember when you bought it, Rockman, so you're either feeling good, though you're not feeling as good because it came down, but you're feeling good if you bought it lower. But I do think BTC super bullish on weekly time frame. Yes, PJ. Let's have a look at Amazon now. So Amazon's trading 4.3 down, 3153, back onto the 50. You'll notice the common theme here is back onto the 50. So with Amazon, it hasn't actually really cared about 3,000 particularly. It seems to like this base of 29, kind of 2,900. So if it gets through this pretty much buy zone here from a technical perspective, then we expect it to go back down to this kind of level here. Why is that? Well, that's just where it kind of stopped last time. We'll also have the 20 kind of intersecting with it at the same point. And then, of course, there's always the super buy, which is 2200, 2400, 2200, that kind of super buy. I don't expect it to happen. We see we actually had something drawn up there before. We were saying if it broke through this resistance, sorry, the support down here, this was actually channeling on the smaller time frames. That was the extension if it got through. It did not. It just broke high. Obviously, this is the zone that you expect it to bounce from. So today means a lot. Today means a lot for the market. It means a lot for bullish sentiment. We need dip buying. We need them to come in. If you're a long person, wish the holds. Wish the holds. Just to recap, coming into the market, we're now 22 minutes away from open, so get hyped. I think it's going to be a cool open. I will stream if we have interesting fireworks. I'll keep going. Dollar index looking relatively bullish. We're still looking for a 93.31. We want to see a body close above the 20, first time in a long time. If we get that up to the 93.80, this all matters. We break the 93.80 into the 94, then all of a sudden we're looking at a superiorly bullish dollar. And that's going to put a lot of pressure on gold. Gold's looking incredibly weak right now. We've just about closed. Have we closed the 4 hour yet? So we haven't closed the 4 hour yet, but this 4 hour body zone through all of these wicks and bodies means a lot. We close a body underneath here. That's going to be the first body close in a very long time. And then all of a sudden we're signaling back down to the 1880. It doesn't seem to care too much about 1900. Last time it hit 1900, it bounced, but in general, it bounced without a body close. If we get a body close, we could be going to 1880 for gold. And that's because of dollar strength more than anything else. Let's have a look at Apple pre-market now. Still down 4.46. So Apple's copying it, but the buying pressure on Apple was extreme. Notice, this is important, I think, as well. Buying pressure here was more than the other stocks. So if you're looking at which are the two that we're reading sentiment on, Tesla, everyone wants to buy Tesla, at least the retailers do, like a lot of people are probably in the chat. But the other thing is Apple is an incredibly popular share to own. So we saw huge buying of that, probably by institutions as well, into the Friday close. I would think that Apple is the one that is going to go super aggressive when it comes back online. People want to own this stock. You can see that in the price action. The sentiment is there. When sentiment changes, Apple will be the one. Here we go, PJ. Good question. I'm going to answer this one for everybody. Why do most people, including me, have this bottom picking cheap price bias? If we need some confirmation, we can't pick bottom top picking with no confirmation is the quickest way to blow up. Yeah, buying the dip can often be dangerous. Now, if you buy the dip with the S&P 500, with the Nasdaq, with a quality stock, it's not dangerous, PJ, necessarily, because you're diversifying your money and spreading it. Where buying the dip gets problematic is when you buy the dip on a really, really, really bad stock. So you buy it on something like, I guess a good example, like a penny stock or a really small stock underneath 100 million or something like that. When you do that, you run the risk of going bust. You do not want to do that. You can also just buy aggressive breakouts. We saw one on Baba. We're going to look over Baba in a few minutes. Oh, Shane, thank you very much. You didn't have to do that, mate, but I appreciate the $10. Thank you very much for doing the super chat. Your comments are enough, mate. You're always in here. I do appreciate it, though. I'll put it towards the $500 giveaway. Nah, I'll have a couple of coffees on you, Shane. I love coffees, so I'll tell you what. Tomorrow, I'll go down to the coffee store. That's what we'll be doing. Call it the Shane coffee. All right, so some other questions here. Nasdaq way overvalued. It is pretty peaky. Bought Nvidia at $20. Jimmy, you are the man. Nice. And you held it. That's pretty good. If you held it. And you believed. But that's a very nice buy. I love buying the dips off the MA. There's no problems with buying the dips in quality. Just remember, no penny stock antics. We're not a penny stock kind of channel. I'll probably make some video and contradict myself about it, but realistically, penny stocks are good if you want to say, I've lost it all. So say you want to put $1,000 or $10,000 on a penny stock. When it's off, it's gone. So like I always say, when I put 10 grand in a penny stock, it's over. Like it's dead to me. And then if it goes and makes more, that's good. But I consider it going to zero every time. Which pair is this? This is Apple right now that we're looking at. Let's go have a look at the markets. We are getting close now to opens. So let's have a look what's happened. Have we seen a bit of buying pressure come in? We have not. We've still got futures down fairly heavily. Look at the heat map. It's always a good way of getting a quick idea. VIX still relatively high. Obviously, we talked about that, where we think it could go to. We've got S&P, Nasdaq, both off decently. Big smash downs in crude. This is just the expectation of further lockdowns. Obviously, I don't think sentiment of necessarily the global kind of stuff going on as well is good. Bonds up. Bonds are hard to buy. A lot of people argue with me on that, but it's just bond market. Bond market used to excite me. Now it's It excites me a lot less than it used to. 10-year note is doing its thing, kind of around the zone. Is it a good idea to invest in Vanguard S&P ETF now or somewhere this week? Well, it depends what your plan is. Obviously, I cannot give you full advice on that kind of thing, mate. But I think if, there's nothing wrong with indices. Buffett says indices are one of the better investments. I tend to agree with him. If you have no idea which stocks you want to buy. But I will say this, I do not believe that the indices are going to be the best looking things over the next decade. And that's purely because we're seeing a fundamental shift from this crisis in industries. Some industries are just going to be sitting there doing nothing, potentially for a decade, or at least 5-6 years. So some of the popular companies that are being traded right now, this is just a bit of a list. Obviously, there's still got the Carnival and all these kinds of things. Microsoft, obviously, AMD is a popular one. Should look at AMD. We'll have a quick look at there, see what's happening with AMD. That was a very extended stock. What's that doing pre-market? We're down 4.41%. Also, wouldn't mind seeing Chipotle. What is Chipotle's code? I need to look that up. There it is, CMG. So Chipotle is flat. So this is actually a very extended stock that is not getting belted. So Chipotle is incredibly extended. I think it's very difficult to buy up here. Very difficult. I want to watch this one and continue watching it on the channel. Notice the dip buying experience off the 20. Still very aggressive trend. And again, just to prove that the moving averages are pretty good, especially the 20. In aggressive trends, they've been very, very nice. And this happened on Apple. If we go back over to Apple and we consider it a while ago, so we consider it before this whole crisis, it works time and time again, these kind of things. So we look at Apple, there were dip buying experiences off the 20 here, and it was quite nice. And a few of the tech stocks were doing this. Even the 4 hour, you go down to the 4 hour, you'll find even better trades. Apple still 4.79 down. So tech, it's really just tech. And it looks like most of the others are sitting flat. Anything else that everybody wants to look at? We'll definitely do that. We've got not long now, 14 minutes till open. Do I see airlines coming back anytime soon? Well, airlines need incredible support in terms of cash flow. They've got really bad cash flow. I find them hard to buy. I just don't see... I don't like airline stocks ever. I've never owned them. I think I did. I can't lie. I owned Qantas, an Australian company, for a little while. Not long. I don't buy them for this one reason. I hate the fact that they could drop out of the sky. You get one crash and it slaughters your share. Look at Malaysia Air a few years ago. That's my problem with them. I hate the risk in the company, so I don't see it worth being the reward. One of the things I was actually looking up, I was doing a bit of scanning before this video and the stream, and I was basically checking out some things here, and I was putting in a few lists to show you some stuff that you can do. And one of the things that I've been thinking pretty heavily about, and I've been looking at and investing in, has been railroads. I like railroad stocks. I just always do. I actually kind of agree that with Buffett on that one, I like them. So I was looking it up, but they're a bit expensive now. They've moved up a little bit too much. But yeah, I just do not like airplanes for that reason. I cannot stand the fact that they could always fall out of the sky. Now, Carnival, let's say, is that going to be a good investment? Again, it's cash flow, it's bonds. They secured money. You've got to look at cash flow with companies. From the one fundamental thing that you want to always look at is cash flow. Can they come out of it? Will they make money all of a sudden? Yes, the market's forward thinking about that. So they've obviously got concerns about cash flow. What I would prefer to look at is restaurants that'll do well out of opens, those kind of things. And a lot of these sectors have already been moved in on. Technically, gambling should do really well during a recession as well because people get depressed and they go gamble. But again, the nature of this crisis makes it tough. Slack's a cool company. I like Slack. It's not been loved in the stock market, I don't think. Let's have a look at Tesla just quickly. 15% down, 355. So we're still targeting that 340, 330 zone here as being major kind of structure support. We'll see whether that happens. And we're now 30% up, or just under 29.31 for Nikola coming with the GM news. So that's pretty big. FedEx. Is that the one you want to look at? Let's have a look at a few of these stocks that are in request. I do need to look at the barber. I know, the barber. So FedEx has been a popular one. It makes some sense. Obviously, a lot of deliveries. Had the good earnings report. Is this the one? Yeah, this is FedEx. So analysts are now raising their earnings estimates and everything like that. So look, FedEx broke out. It's one of those things where I don't necessarily always buy the kind of news announcements. Maybe the news was down here. I like to see it back here at the 200. That's my personal opinion. Why do I want it here? I just think that we want to hit the previous resistance, and I could see this has been a very aggressive run on this stock. And in the past, it's pulled back. I just know it because I've traded it a few times. It's pulled back a bit after aggressive runs. It's the nature of the beast. It has nice runs, pullbacks, and it kind of hovers. Nice runs, pullbacks. I think that's a pretty nice run for it. So I want to see a nice pullback on FedEx before I'm interested in it. I want 200. 210 is probably where it goes to because previous support over here, 20. I don't like it here. It could keep going up, but it's just not for me at this price. So yeah, that's the FedEx. Let's check out that barber because obviously barber is coming down fairly heavily. It's hitting the major resistance, which is becoming support. It already bounced off that zone. We're now seeing market open back into this level. This is why this level is so critical today. We've got Barber, we've got Apple, we've got Square, we've got every single stock is basically hitting the right zones for you to think that's good dip buying. That's good dip buying areas off the previous moves. It's technically the areas. The question is, if it gets through those, where does it go? Well, Barber could go all the way back down to 240 all of a sudden. So here is really the zone you'd be looking at. This 266, 270, you'd be structuring in there, go down to the 4 hour, see how the body closes have happened. So we had a lot of body close around here. It makes sense why it bought off that zone. Now we're getting a 269 open, which is around here. Could see further selling, come test this zone again, the 267, and then buy off. But it does make sense for that to be fairly strong. Intel undervalued, yeah. It's not necessarily good to buy Intel during these kind of fallouts because Intel had a good accumulation on it here. The problem with Intel is, did anyone see their report? Did anyone watch that video they put out where they basically talk about their competition? I think it's hilarious. I actually watched it. So Intel are just like constantly talking about AMD the entire time. They're like, this is how we compare with AMD. This is how we compare. Every other time, they've always been like, the competition. We don't care about them. They're not even, they're nothing to us. So this is the first time I've ever seen Intel care. And at the same time they release the results, they have the worst marketing ever. I don't even know the number that they used. How can you be the worst marketers ever and a really simple idea? I know that's biased, but damn. This is a good accumulation area for Intel. It's obvious that 48's strong. It is obvious that 48's strong. And there is a good level here. Previous resistance becoming support. It should be a good company. It's probably just in rotation right now. But yeah, this technically is the area. And we had the accumulation. We had the market thinking about it. It had the breakout. We would have expected this to probably hold. Probably people weren't very happy with the news either. Just Intel is screwed, Gemin says. They are not only screwed current gen, but they are screwed next gen. Okay, well, I don't know about that, but I do know that Intel are struggling with their architecture. They really need to make it happen. I believe that these semiconductors and these chips and all these other things, these particular companies are going to come under increased international competition over the next decade. I find that the difficult part. You know, right now we've got only a few major players. Intel can't even get their marketing together. It could be another IBM. Ollie says, Tom, wheat down 8 cents. Don't worry, Ollie, I will not buy wheat. It's okay. Yeah, Microsoft, absolutely. We should look at that. Now, we are 7 minutes from open. 7 minutes, everybody. We'll be looking at the Nasdaq. We'll be looking at that S&P 500 in only a few minutes. So Microsoft has come right back down here. We've got a 4-hour 2050 about to confirm cross. Now, look in the past to always get an idea of whether that matters or not. Do we think that the 2050 cross matters on the 4-hour? I think automatically everybody's eye should be going over here and saying, nope, it does not matter. It doesn't, because it's already given us a crappy signal. So we cannot use that cross. We cannot say that cross means much to us because it gave us a crappy signal before, and we don't want that. So we don't want crappy signals. Use the market history to tell us what's going on. So let's go to the daily on Microsoft, because Microsoft's obviously a bit of a powerhouse in terms of making cash. And it's down 3.52, 206, coming back down, testing these levels. Now, it actually got through the 50. It actually showed more weakness, and Microsoft hasn't been really that strong since July. So it's been a little bit weak here. I think Microsoft could come all the way back down to the 190, and it could do it anyway, just randomly, just do it. Why is that? Well, obviously we get through this low here instantly into the 200. We are going to find some support there just based on previous structure, previous support. We do not have the moving average working with us here. It is not working with us. So we've got the 200 psychological and then the 190. These two $10 increments are where we've seen price action structure. So it's really all we can look at here on Microsoft. ASX 200, yeah, we'll do that quickly. Absolutely. For Shane, we have to do it for Shane. He did super chat. So let's load up the ASX 200 quickly. We'll do that. Where's the futures there as I enter? So Microsoft, I think those $10 increments, they just make sense. It's not rocket science there, but it's, remember, I use a lot of horizontal support resistance, and I do it for a reason. And that reason really is that we want to see the fact that the market is doing key level breaks. If we're using trend lines, and just a quick shout out, do not use trend lines when you first start TA. You'll trend find yourself. You'll be like, yeah, I've got this trend line and I'm going to draw it. And yeah, you know, I see this one. It's pretty good. Yeah, that's the trend line. I like that. And then you just buy off it. Well, who else is seeing that trend line, guys? I don't think the multi-billion dollar people care about that trend line. They care about psychology, they care about sentiment, and they care about structure in TA. They don't care about the trend line, because unless it's incredibly clear. When it's incredibly clear and correctly set up, it's good. So here we've got the ASX 200. Again, we are not seeing necessarily the same kind of sentiment as the US tech. We've only got 4 minutes here, so I'll make it quick. Basically, it is shorting off here. It is finding weakness. We need to see it under this 5,900 close, very strong close we want to see on the real market. And then if we get under there, our next level here is really the 5,650. I really love the structure through this zone, guys. So I love it here. I love this area, 5,600 area, 5,600, 5,650. If we get under here, we're really triggering a further sell-off down there. We're getting smashed by China also playing a lot of games with us right now. Obviously, there's a whole geopolitical thing going on, and it's definitely hurting a lot of sentiment, and we're in lockdown. Melbourne's obviously in full lockdown. So I expect underneath this zone, all of a sudden, we see something like this happening. Might go down, might come back up, test that zone, and then down to the 57, 56 range, draw that range up, look for lightning bolts in the direction up. That would be the ideal kind of area. ASX was volatile, fake futures kind of action. Although we're not in futures, we're trading fakely. That was absolute manipulation today. All right, let's go over. Let's have a look at pre-market here. 15% down still basically for Tesla, 356.50. With Nikola looks open to 29.59, 2 minutes off. Let's load up our two favorites. Let's load up the SPX. Actually, we'll load up the US 500 because it's going to trade the same. And then we'll split that with the Nasdaq. Let's watch these together. We'll make the Nasdaq black. Yeah, why not? All right, so load that one up. There we go. Zoom that beast in here. I'm probably more interested in the Nasdaq today to see what happens here, just because the Nasdaq's driving sentiment. Let's see if we can get underneath this zone. So Nasdaq on the right, and we have daily. Let's move that down to the 4-hour. S&P 500 on the left. Quick reminder, if you do not have an economic calendar, make sure you get one like forexfactory.com or something like that. In terms of this week, not too big, but I will flag this right now. Thursday, September 17th. Put that in your calendar. FOMC press conference, federal funds rate, FOMC statement, Jerome, all the peeps, they're coming out, and let's see what they have to say. The market may literally not be happy with anything going on right now and may sell into that zone. You never know. So check that one out. All right, here we go. Everyone hyped? 1 minute. Let's get that timer on. 30 seconds here. Remember, futures market doesn't mean that much. It's really what the real volume gives us. We want to see sells. If you're a bear, you want to see sells into the end of the days, not buys. Sells. Thank you again, Shane. All right, so 10 seconds. 9, 8, 7. Here we go. No worries, Victor. All right, market's basically open. So let's see what happens here. Got 3% down almost instantaneously on the Nasdaq. It's off to the races. Testing those lows, that's interesting. So straight up testing. S&P's coming off a little bit harder as well. We're down 2.24 there. So that's very, very interesting. So we tested the low. Little scalper came in. Little buy off that low for like 2 seconds. Probably a couple of points there. Really want to watch this next 15 minutes. It's going to be key to watch these next 15 minutes. Let's have a quick look at our sentiment on the old Nikola. Let's see what that did on the open. 27. And we've got 16% down. 351 on Tesla. Ooh, if you're holding it. A bit of pain, I know. So that is not the best. 350 there. What about Apple? What do we got on that? So we opened 5.6, so a little bit more down, 114. Do we put test back on that? I really want to see Apple's test level here today. And we'd like to go and watch copper in a minute as well. Remember, copper really signals crash. We do not have that at the moment. Where's my US 500? Here it is. So we're still putting test on this level. I've got these both set on the 4-hour for anyone that's looking. We do have the 2050 crosses on both of these. We do have the 2050 crosses, so they're still buying off this. Might even skip this one down to the 1 hour quickly. Have a look what's been happening there in the futures. So that's a double buy off that zone so far. And the S&P 500 didn't quite test the low, and there is some buying coming in. Let's go to the chat room, see what everyone's got going on here. Not confident after pre-market action on US opening. Hope we don't drop below 11,000 Nasdaqs and 330.42. Yeah, look, I think futures mean nothing, really. I mean, I think that futures are not the real market, and they never will be. Zoom is about to close the joke gap. Yeah, that was a joke. That was the end of sentiment. I said this a few times. That Zoom absolutely had me. I was like, wow, are you serious? How can the Zoom be doing what it was doing? Like 40-something% in one day, it was never going to hold it. So that was very, very disappointing to see that it went up that high. It kind of showed me that sentiment was going crazy. But try not to buy into the hype. Remember, buy the rumor, sell the fact it's a real thing in the market, and then buy the dip after the fact. write that one down. I think it's a bit of a good analogy. Nasdaq and S&P 500 crazy moving. Yeah, so the futures don't look like they're moving too much, but obviously these are down quite a lot. 2.78. We've got that 0.2%, 0.3% move pretty quickly. We're still testing these lows on these numbers here. S&P 500 is coming off a little bit more actually than Nasdaq here. I want to see these in 15 minutes, everyone. I want to go back over these, see what's happening in 15 minutes. We'll switch this actually to 15-minute chart, and we'll see what goes on here. And S&P 500 is doing its thing. All right, Tesla still coming under that 350 pressure. Again, I think that 333, 340 is really where we've got the previous resistance structure. Let's see if copper moved. Copper actually moved down. All right, that's a big move in terms of what we saw. We saw pre-market copper was up, and now all of a sudden we've got copper moving down. And that'll be interesting to see if we get double top off that. So keep your copper alerts on 2.95. I think that would be worthwhile. You got double top potential here on copper. Remember, copper does precursor kind of crashing. At this stage, it's totally not giving us that kind of signal. So copper is not giving us the signal right now, but it is certainly down. It was up. Dollar index bulling along. I expect that to continue if we see market weakness. More people moving out. Obviously, US dollar is smashed, so makes sense for it to have this accumulation. Key sentiment was incredibly bearish on dollar here. People were calling dollar death basically here. Usually when everyone's talking about something, it's not what you want. Remember that elevator talk theory. If you're in an elevator and someone comes up to you and they say, "Did you hear about that friend of mine that bought Tesla? Made like 50K in like a week?" Get the hell out. Get out. That's not what you want to hear in the elevator. The shoe shine analogy, I think that came from. So still got a little bit of pressure here. So Nasdaq now only down 2.5. So we're up 0.5 off the open. So decent moves here in the first couple of minutes of the US Open. US Open's always way more fun than Australian Open. I will be loading up a few different charts as well. I'm just about to get some approval and some feeds for everyone so that we've got a full screener of all the stocks going off when we come in. Make it a bit more fun for everyone to watch. And remember, we will be doing a full election stream. I'm planning on doing a 12 to 14 hour US election stream. So make sure you subscribe if you're interested in that, or our videos if you haven't already done so. I know we've got a lot of new viewers here, so thank you very much for coming along. Let's have a look at some other stocks as well. Apple being bought a little bit aggressively here. It's obviously the one that's driving that sentiment in terms of strength. Get rid of this for a second. Let's just have a quick look at Nvidia as well. I want to go back over to that. I think that's a very popular stock right now. Let's see what's going on. Hit that low, bought off it a little bit. Still down, obviously heavy on the day, but not insanely heavy. Gold, still finding some weakness versus the US, of course. Bitcoin will also be doing a very similar thing. US dollar Swiss is actually setting up for a pretty decent little trade here if we get through this resistance. 92 resistance is key. Nice structure through US dollar Swiss for any Forex traders out there. I like this kind of structure. It just doesn't matter if it's a stock or anything. Think of this as accumulation. So say this was Intel and Intel crashed off and it did this kind of thing. We see structure like this. What is this? Well, we've got increased volume coming through in these days as well. Got a decent amount of increased volume coming into the potential break, and then obviously would rather see these bigger, but that's because of the days off, as in the bank holiday and futures. The thing is with this, if we see a break off this, what it's showing us is the market's thought about the level, it's accumulated the level, and the big boys are basically positioned up. Think of it as Buffett's bought the area, and then his interest, and then when it breaks out, it's often very, very electric. So the way you want to treat these, you either take a portion on the breakout, wait for the dip, and then take the lightning bolt up. And then, of course, take the range of the actual accumulation, or if you're holding a stock longer, you go even more. So 94 here is the clear target, just before 94. Same structure, though, you're going to use in stocks. So yes, it's US dollar Swiss, but exact same thing. Keep the questions coming in. Nasdaq now being bought relatively aggressively. As we said, we want to hold this level today. We'd like to hold this level if you're a bull. You do not want to see it under this zone. We're hitting that 50 on the daily. We're hitting that kind of key area that we hit on Friday and bulled off. So we need to have this level hold for the bulls. Otherwise, we're going all the way down to the next zone And where's that? We're talking 10.5. We don't necessarily want to be down 10.5 if you're a bull. If you want to buy like cheap dips, then of course. But yeah, at this stage, we want this level to hold if you're bullish. Interesting to see the S&P actually showing further weakness here while people are rotating into a bit of this tech. I think the tech's slightly better here. The S&P was less off pre-market. Now we're seeing 2.5, and the Nasdaq here was 2.4. So that's pretty interesting. Graham says he took a long on US dollar Swiss earlier. Fair enough, Graham. Obviously broke through one of those key candles as well. We'll look at pound yen a little bit later and look at a few other pounds. I know you're in them, Graham. I know because you're in the private Discord community. Bit of a shout out if you're interested in learning a little bit more. Obviously, you can jump over to fxevolution.com. You can join our community or do our trade course, whatever, if you feel like it. I see the S&P 500 reversing at 33.55. Yeah, I mean, like this level here is been where it's found the buys. Harley trades so annoyed. I called Tesla to 350 but didn't short it. Yeah, fair enough, Harley. But remember, shorting the market is super hard. Buying the market is much easier. Don't fight the generalized trend of going up over time. I took a long on ASX 200. Well, when did you do so, Gemin? Because remember, if you bought the ASX 200 during the day, it's not going to go down just because the US went down. The futures were trading down much earlier. Depends where you bought it. You bought 59.50, you're fine. 59.30, you're not going to be too bad. So Nasdaq continues to be buying up here a little bit of strength coming through. See if Nikola is holding it. So let's see if Nikola is holding those gains. See, it doesn't. Just didn't hold those gains. Pre-market seems to be the place to sell these hype trains. So actually have a look at Zoom there just for a second and see. Now I know that closed heavy. That was just full bull, wasn't it? It didn't open up hard. No, it opened up hard. Okay. So it's another classic case. It seems that the pre-market actually could be the time to sell off these news events. That's interesting. So you learn something new every day. Like during this current bullish, crazy sentiment in the markets, the pre-market has always been stronger on almost any of these stocks into the news than the actual market itself. I have to pull some stats on that for everyone. I'm pretty sure it has been. Robinhood has crashed, someone says. Miguel. Has it now? Wow. $14 is decent time for looking at stocks. Oh, election day is fun. Election day is fun on the stock market. Last time it was crazy during Trump's election. That was some wild features. Craziness. But no, we'll be doing stories. We'll be doing everything. I might get a couple of people on the stream as well to have a chat. I definitely think it'll be a good event. NAS is starting to fall again. Yeah, it's moving pretty quick. Let's go back over to that. Testing those lows again. Wow, S&P now testing the lows. So it happens that fast, everybody. All of a sudden, we're down 3%. Go and test these lows. We do not want to see it under here, though, if we are bulls with tight stop losses. Obviously, long-term investors, you don't need to worry too much. Just see it always as opportunity. I think it's always good to have multiple trading ideas. Maybe you have your investment account. And in the investment account, you have your long buy dips. Then you have your trading, and you trade, and you make your money, and then you move your money into your investment account, into your assets, build it over time. It's always a good thing. Remember, don't ever be a hater on all asset classes. I like bonds, not so much anymore, but I like bonds. I like real estate. I think real estate's a cool investment in certain places, in certain cases. And obviously stocks is cool as well. If you ever hear someone say, oh, real estate sucks or stocks suck, they just don't understand the asset class. Am I buying or holding? I would, I'm always looking at buys and holds. Different assets for different investments. So I definitely think this dip buying, this experience here, what we're seeing right now, presents several opportunities. Absolutely. But I'll generally hold a portfolio for a long period. I found it very difficult to hold up here. I'll be honest. I found it very difficult. This is a very difficult area. Because, especially in tech anyway, everything else, no harm in holding anything else. I don't think anything else is super overvalued. You know, hold Berkshire, you hold those Disney, those kind of things. It's not necessarily overvalued right now. I would be interested to see how Disney's going. Let's just watch that VIX quickly. So the VIX is holding, it looks like, its percentage. Remember, we want to see a close above here. For anyone that's come in, I know we've got more viewers right now. First day, we were talking about very large move, very large move. Then we had the swing. So we basically had a new high followed by a big short off. The exact same kind of thing as over here. And then we went up and we tested the resistance, but we did not break a new high, as in like really get above that by a lot. We have not done that yet. So we want to see the VIX get up, get through, and that will really show fear getting back into the market. We don't want to see another reoccurrence of this, because this is a flash crash kind of scenario where it just goes back up after that. We want to see, if you're a bear, you want to see sustained above 38 hold. We want to see a 38 plus hold. We don't want to see this. That's bad. That just basically means that it's just a dip and Wall Street got in and ripped everyone else off and expired everything. I have a feeling that if we keep breaking down here, we might see a bit more selling into potentially the FOMC. Maybe the market's going to put some pressure on this September 17th economic date. Put pressure on the Fed again. Say, hey, we need more support. You know, Congress are meant to have passed that thing. They haven't done anything, have they? Tesla's next resistance, I think it means support probably. So in terms of Tesla, we have that here on the right. So it basically just hit it. It hit that 335 kind of zone, previous body. It just hit the real support there. And then obviously after that, you're going at 280. It's a pretty big sell-off on Tesla, but it is not unknown for this to happen. We go to the weekly. While this is a big move, it blows off quite hard. And obviously there's the crash, but it does blow off quite hard. If we look at it in the past, often it sells very aggressively and then it will come back up and then it kind of hovers after that period. So this could be just an epic blow off. Remember, Tesla needs to prove the facts at one point, and this GM news is negative for them right now. This Nikola GM news. Not necessarily a positive thing for them at this stage. Keep the questions coming in. We've obviously got now S&P making a new low. We expected that to go to like kind of 33.20 zone. Let's go to the daily here just to make sure. Check that out. Got that 50 daily, 33.25 right now, which is where it is in terms of the body. So we're expecting it potentially come back down to there. Possibly dip down to the 3300, find support at the previous kind of structure resistance. See buying there. That is a new low though that we just formed. Yet at the same time, we barely formed a new low on the NAS. The NAS literally touched the 50 right then. These zones we expect to probably hold, or we hope they do. Otherwise, on to the next one. Important part of TA and important part of trading is you find your zone, and if you're going to be a dip buyer, let's say you find your zone, you say, I like the 50. So you buy the 50, okay? Let's just say you do that. When it gets through this zone, don't just go, oh yeah, I'm going to buy here. I'm going to buy here as well. You buy the next zone. You don't just whack your money in all the way through. The whole point of being good at TA or good at analysis in general is you want to understand that the market fills to an area. There's a reason that when it cracked here, it comes down to here. The first step is going to be the 20. The next step is going to be the 50. That's what's going to happen. The first step is going to be the 20. The next step is going to be the 50. Why do we know this? It happened before. We can use previous history to tell us what's going to happen. Brian says, please, God, please make them hold. I hope so for your sake, Brian. But I'm sure there's a few people out there, a few punters in the in the room, and they're going to be absolutely, I do not want it to hold, unfortunately. I want to buy cheap prices. I missed some of this run. Let me in. Let me in. Robinhood can't sell Tesla quickly enough, or its disruptive company with vertical integration. I do like that word, vertical integration. That's cool. Tom, can you show how to avoid those indicators in TradingView? I can't seem to get the same ones as you. Oh, sorry. avoid. Yeah, basically, if you want to add these ones, so you go indicators, then you just search moving average, then you want exponential, and you want exponential set for the 20, which is the red one, and then you want to set exponential close for the 50, and then you want to set a simple for the 200. So make the 200 a simple. There is a reason why you use these. Now, why is the 20 so good? I haven't answered this before, really. I don't think on the stream. The 20 is so good because when we think about it, what is a trading month? Well, a trading month is 4 weeks, basically, yeah? What is 4 weeks by 5 trading days? 20 days. A 20 moving average is based on the 20 previous periods. So if we're looking at 20 daily, it's based on the 20 previous days of trade or a month. Now, we know human psychology. We work in months, quarters, 6 months, obviously 12-month periods. So that's why the 20 is so good. Remember, if TA makes sense, it's good. If TA doesn't make sense, don't do it. That's why I don't like indicators so much. I don't just put an RSI on my indicator thing and go, oh, that's overbought. I'm not going to buy the market. Look, it could be overbought for ages. It could be overbought for a very, very long time. S&P 500 spiked up. Yep, they certainly did. We obviously got the bigger buy here. We hit that 50 though. That's nice. Hit right in that zone. Exponential puts more weighting on, so this is for Harley and for anyone else there, exponential moving averages put more weight on the last couple of candles. So they're better for being more market adaptive. I like them on the shorter ones. So if you're a scalper, usually exponential for all of your small numbers. If you're using a 5 or an 8 or a 15 using simple, I don't know about that. I think you should be using exponential. And close. Hopefully that answers your question, Harley. A few people asking about Apple. Yeah, Shane's right. Definitely below like that kind of 110, 100. Those $10 increments are very, very strong. Yeah, we want to go back over that dollar index. Oh yeah, dollar index, man, it's moving up. So we've obviously therefore got weakness on gold and silver versus the US dollar. We're seeing dollar strength. Remember here, everyone that's coming in, dollar getting past here is a big deal. Why is that? Well, we're going past the 20 moving average. We're going to close above that. We've got good structure formation through here. I think anyone that's looking at this chart, now I obviously have SUP down here, but yeah, we can move SUP down here if we want to. But we have very good structure formation and accumulation through here. You could see this is a double bottom with a low, and the thing with double bottoms is this is actually quite an aggressive move coming off that. I'm sure if you put MACD, if you put all these indicators, you're going to find a whole bunch of divergence and all those types of things. We can do that together if we want to. I use the MT4 MACD on TradingView. I think it's easier and better. So we go down to the 4 hour. You're going to see most likely some divergence. Oh, right on, not. There you go, I was a liar. But pretty close. So basically, we want to see price get through this 93.80, 94. Why do we want that? Well, we want to see the market break to a new high. When it breaks to a new high, we are fundamentally changing dollar index opinion. That is very bullish for the dollar index. I've mentioned it a few times during this stream. That kind of action there, all of a sudden we're looking at 95, 96 dollar strength all on. This to Wall Street, to anybody else, to all the big hedge funds, to me, to anybody else that trades some pretty large money, this is cool. We see that close. We are bullish dollar. I've already been bullish dollar now since down here. Somebody asked about the US dollar CAD. So the US dollar CAD, oh no, not the Kraken. Never use the Kraken. The Kraken sucks. We'll use the OANDA feed. So US dollar CAD, nice breakout here as well, which is good. Get rid of this. So basically with this one, we had a pretty nice daily bullish pin bar or bullish hammer in terms of a bit of a movement here. Then we saw that we got above there and decent structure through the 4 hour here as well. So we had a nice kind of trough, peak, high trough, breakthrough, came back down, tested the area, did a double rejection, moved up. So there's quite a lot of decent moves against the trend here. And this is what we're certainly looking for. So US dollar Swiss, US dollar CAD, US dollar index, all quite good structuring at the bottom here. And you expect to see that. I said I'll do this on currency as well. I just wanted to talk about this. When you see like a pin bar or kind of a rejection candle and the market gets through that zone and it closes below that, that is so bearish, okay? Very bearish. This is the number one retail signal, I see it as. Everyone knows pin bar, everyone knows hammer and shooting star, like in terms of the wording. Who out there doesn't know about this candle? Answer me this in the room. A lot of people know this candle in TA. This one has become the trap candle. It's actually only statistically like 53% good or something. It's maybe not even that good anymore. When market gets cracks underneath that, especially cracks at a psychological zone, it's basically saying superior sells, big movement into the market. You want to get the hell out of there because it's cracked a key level where it rejected. The market strongly rejected this zone and then went through. The same thing on Apple. We go over to Apple. And remember this, for anyone that trades stocks, it's the same thing. We see Apple get through this zone and close below. That's so bearish, guys. That is so bearish because all of a sudden we've got this big pin bar rejection, hammer rejection. We get below here. What's it telling us? Well, at this point over here, we had a huge amount of buying pressure, the huge amount of momentum. Then the market gets under this zone. Well, that's saying to us that they've lost control. The buyers have fully lost control. We've cracked this level onto the next level, which will be 100. That's what will happen because that's the kind of movement that you're thinking about. You're thinking about momentum. We've got the buyers in control. The buyers have completely lost control. It becomes a significant level because of the bullish hammer, because of the wick, and we're on to the next level. All right, we'll go. Now, tell me this, everybody. It's in America, which I know there's a lot of people out there. Oh, not this Union specific. This is definitely a company I quite like, the railroad. But what's it? Texas Roadhouse Steak and Grill. Is that a good place? Is that a good place? I don't know. But I know a lot of people talk about that stock. Ikesh says, I don't. I'm a noob. Okay, we'll definitely look up bullish hammer and shooting star. So hammer and shooting star candles. In fact, I'll actually post you let me post this in the room. We've got a cheat sheet that this is for a pattern cheat sheet, but I'll hook in anyone that requests through the email. I'll send you a candle one as well. So here we go, guys. If you're interested, you can check that out. It's a free cheat sheet for just signing up. Pretty good in Florida. Okay, there you go. Texas Roadhouse. All right, because I saw a few people saying it's a game changer. I'm not sure. I mean, it's just always interesting to know those things. Let's go back over now and have a look at what the market's doing. So Zoom is continuing kind of its decline, but looks like we've got a bit of pickup here. So a bit of a pickup, still picking up 2.3 now. So we went and tapped that 50. We expected that to hopefully hold. Certainly was an intraday buying dip opportunity where you could just buy it and hope that it was going to go up because of the nature of it. And then of course over here, we got that new low and then we're seeing some buying coming in. Nothing matters till the close, really, because the first hour of trade, we always expect a huge amount of retail traders in. Usually the first hour is not when the big guys make their decisions. They make their decisions into the end of the day. If you see multiple days of bearish, like bullish in the morning, bearish at night, that's bad. That usually symbolizes further corrective activity. Bullish in the morning, bearish at night is not good. There we go. Skylar Bork says the house. That's like how we call it Mac. Like you go to McDonald's, we call it Macca's. For some reason, Australians probably love McDonald's more than Americans do. We have Macca's and we love Macca's and the Colonel, KFC. Probably, I know Chick-fil-A is one of the best chickens in America, but for some Australians love Macca's, man. So a few people like that one. It's an experience for sure. There we go. Just scrolling through a few of these questions here. Remember, keep the questions coming. It keeps the stream interesting. Answers a whole bunch of things that people want to know. Ask me TA questions. Ask me whatever. It's all good. Thank you very much for being here, by the way. 495. I think we just hit a stream record. Wow. Thank you. Thank you very much, everybody. Just a quick reminder, if you haven't subscribed, definitely consider doing so. We're always here to help out everybody. And remember, people, send me to support@fxevolution.com. Send me some of the free tools that you're using. I don't know every free tool on the internet. I use a lot of paid ones I can't show on the stream. So send me them through so I can help people out and share that with the community. It's all about, at the end of the day, getting people better at trading. You're risking your money. You know, you can lose a lot in the markets if you don't know what you're doing. This is key as well. Remember, high VIX, when the market is going up and we have volatility moving up, it is bad, very bad. Over 3,600 days, only 83 times this ever happened. And it is usually leading to bearish sentiment. So remember that one. High VIX, high market, bad. Good pre-warning sign. Take a look at that copper, by the way, in terms of pre-warning signs. So copper's a little bit corrective here. Remember, we've got that double top pattern on copper if it does happen. 2.95, worthwhile setting some alerts down there, just if you forget about it. Copper is a good indicator of economic strength and weakness. In terms of precursors, 15th of Jan, 14th of Jan, we found out obviously about the crisis, really, in terms of the West, most of the world. We saw copper nosedive. It went off a cliff. It did that before the US market fell off. So copper is really a precursor often to the rest of the market. So make sure you have copper on your charts and you always follow that, especially during recessions. But copper is only investable out of recessions. The rest of the time, it's a bit useless. NAS 100, let's go back over. All right, so we've got some heaps of questions coming in here. KFC is big in Asia. Yes, it is. I've been to Malaysia, China, Hong Kong, all those places. In Malaysia, it made me super sick. I ate it at the airport. Oh, that's bad. Don't eat Kernel at the airport. It's so bad. Do we have deep fried apple pie? Yes, we do, Gary. It is not popular. Well, as far as I know, no one buys it. Come on, Naz, you can do it. Brian probably wants it to go up, I believe. Popeye's chicken. Okay, I don't even know if we have that. Probably do now. We have a lot of Korean fried chicken nowadays. I'm holding 120 silver call contracts and I'm nervous. Ooh. Yeah. Silver is going to be tough because dollar index strength. That's the problem with these ones. But remember, 93, 80, 94 is where you should be concerned if it gets through those zones. A few people asking Shane where he's at. Here's some more questions. Tom, can you repeat what you said on the sentence after buy the rumor, sell the fact, something to do with the dip buying? Yeah, absolutely. So basically the way that the market usually works is this is kind of what happens. So the market runs into the rumor. Let's say we have an earnings result. Okay, the market does this. Then the earnings comes out and the market often might dip up a little bit further or it sells off. Okay, but we don't know that solution. So it does this. So that's the buy the rumor. The actual fact of the earnings result is often crappy or it's not as good as you think. Now, Zoom, obviously, I know it wasn't like that, but we all saw what happened with Zoom over the last couple of days. Then after that point, what usually happens is we actually have a dip after the news because people get less excited about it. Think of it as a standard human psychology. When everyone's anticipating something, like say you come in and watch my stream, okay? If you're here half an hour early, you're like, ooh, I want to see the Monday bell, I want to see the Tuesday bell, let's or the non-farm payrolls result. I'm interested in that. And then it comes out and you're like, oh, that sucked. Or that wasn't interesting, or whatever. Yeah, so it's that buy the rumor. You're anticipating the experience. Just like in boxing, you're anticipating the boxing fight. It goes for 2 minutes, someone gets knocked out, and you're like, well, why to spend $100 on that? So it basically comes up, and then it will dip after that. So that's like kind of sell the fact aspect. And then you want to be in really one of two areas. You either get into the buy the rumor, you get the hell out in the fact or before the fact, and then you get back in after the dip. So Berkshire was a classic case of that. So let's have a look at Berkshire shares. So obviously Buffett, seeing VIX drop off a little bit here is of course there isn't the follow through going on right now. Doesn't mean there won't be, but we're not seeing that follow through right now. So let's have a look at Berkshire B. So Berkshire B here is a classic case of that. So we had that buy the rumor into the earnings result. People were starting to anticipate. They felt pretty good. They saw Buffett making a couple of moves. Had the earnings result. It was pretty nice. Looked all right. and then it dipped after the earnings result into a good technical buy. We talked about this on the channel as well in the video, and we said there was a pretty good zone. And then, of course, it bought off after that. So basically, this is that sell effect. Hopefully that makes sense. Oil is free falling. Let's have a look at UK oil and US oil. So we obviously saw the weakness coming in. Yep, I wouldn't be surprised if it goes all the way down to kind of this 34.60 even. It's filling a gap. Now, one thing that people, again, just always understand this. Technical analysis, especially horizontal support resistance, it's about finding gap fills. It's about finding a zone that's so key that when it breaks through that zone, it usually fills to the next area. That's what you want to do. It's kind of like gold. Like you look at gold right now, you go to a 4-hour or 2-hour chart. We've now closed a 4-hour down here. That's actually pretty bearish. So do we now, that we've closed under here, do we now move to the next zone fill? The next zone fill's at 1880. It could happen rather aggressively. It's not a super high quality kind of one like it was over here during this ascending. That's a beautiful ascending. We knew that when it cracked this, it was certainly going to fill to 2000. Did I know 2074? No, but that fill there is for sure. Very, very quick fill. So find key zones on the monthly, weekly, dailies, then intraday trade them in the direction of the fill. Do I eat kangaroo? Yes, I do, Dennis. It stinks. It smells so bad, man. When you cook it, it's horrible. KFC sucks. Popeyes is better. Yeah, I know. But we're not used to having these quality things. We don't have that much American food. We eat Macca's and KFC. Anyway, it's not conducive with good trading. You need to stay healthy in the mind. Try to do a bit of exercise and stuff. You want to be on your aim game. Kangaroo is solid to eat, but not popular. Yeah, that's true, Logan. It's getting more popular, though, because it's quite lean. The idea is kangaroo meat's pretty lean, so it's very strong flavor from Chris. Yeah, I think Chris lives in Melbourne, so he doesn't like it. I only tried it once. Some like it. Yeah, a lot of bodybuilders and stuff like it. Lean meat. Down 4,000, but I'm still smiling. That's good. Keep the attitude. Remember, what do they say in crypto? I think out of the boom a few years ago, some cool analogies. Well, firstly, I love to the moon. Mooning. I think that's just hilarious. I also like weak hands and strong hands. You know, I know that sounds crazy, but weak hands is such a true thing. The market freaks you out during these crashes and you get the weak hands, and we've all been there. We've all sold a position and we've got, oh, why'd I sell that? That sucked. I shouldn't have sold that one. But that's the weak hands, yeah? We didn't believe in our company. We're not like Buffett, who doesn't even look at his stuff probably. He's got the strong hands. He's got very strong hands. Harley agrees. Kangaroo smells. Yeah, absolutely. What indicators are we using? Yeah, absolutely. So we're using the 20 exponential moving average, 50 exponential moving average, 200 simple moving average. We also use pivots, monthly, weekly for stocks. If you trade currency, daily pivots are allowed, but not on stocks. They're useless. And, well, my opinion, but yeah, I think they're useless. MACD is also a great indicator. Stochastic and RSI are also all good. Definitely worthwhile checking all of those out. HODL, yes, HODL is good. Hold on for dear life, or whatever it is. Technically, you should be hodling your stocks. You hodl your stocks, you keep them all. You don't want to let go of those ones. You're going to hodl them. Don't have the weak hands. So this is interesting. We're seeing Nasdaq showing further, a little bit more dip buying. People are getting into it, while we're seeing S&P actually hold the lows. That is not really what we expected. We expected, obviously, the Nasdaq to hit the 50, but I expected a little bit more follow through. Could be a bit trappy here, though. Remember, it matters what happens at the end of the day. Always check the end of the day. If you're going to be like someone that trades or invests or whatever, and you want to follow the market, the morning's good. It's good to come in on Mondays or Tuesdays whenever the bell opens. Good to check out non-farms and understand those things. But it's what happens at the end of the day that matters the most. That's when the big money comes in. VIX up 12? Yeah, it is. It was up a little bit more before Jason, though. Would I buy the Nasdaq here for medium term? I think you could. I mean, we are going into an election in the US. Historically, that means less volatility in the market. Now, after election, who knows? This is a weird year. But September, we know it's a weak month. Statistically, it's weak. That's why we're all here. That's why we saw that. That's why I made some of the videos I made last week. All right, so go a couple other questions here. Coming in from Felix. Short question. And this is not asking for a trading recommendation. Good, because I cannot give those, unfortunately. But a question about your logical thought path would be to maybe get some AHA. All right, let's have a look. Arrowhead. Is this it? I'll let you respond and tell me if that's it. Tell me the code on it. Just make sure that's the code. If that's it, that's a thing. We'll come back to that one. Do you see we're going into a bubble? If we don't correction and we don't actually move down and cool it off a bit, yes. Absolutely, we're going to bubble territory. Let's look at a bubble. Let's learn a bubble. It's very much worthwhile learning from these experiences. So let's look at the last kind of stock market bubble that I can think of that was really aggressive. This is what happens in a bubble. Okay, so this is the Shanghai comp, and it wasn't that many years ago, and a lot of people don't know this. A lot of people didn't care, especially the Western world. So I know Asian friends, and they were suffering during this time. Everyone was in it here. So basically what happened, we had that super aggressive move, then we had the parabolic move. So we actually had a big dip off, and then you had big aggressive moves up. Now, what we actually don't want to see in the US market, and I know you think you want this, but I'm not sure if we want this, where basically we have an aggressive flash kind of sell-off for multiple weeks, and then we see superior, giant, big, bullish candles, especially kind of long leg doji, spinny tops, whatever you want to call them. These things are not cool. We do not want to have these, because whenever you get these, you know you're at the end and you're in a bubble. A lot of gap buying Mondays, that kind of thing, big fills. We don't want this type of thing. So Shanghai comp was really a big bubble into a big crash. The other options that you look at the ASX 200 coming into the GFC. That's a good learning experience. And obviously we've got the mother of them all, which is Bitcoin. Although it was on a much smaller scale, it shows the same kind of thing. So we do not want these under any circumstances. As a long-time holder in stocks and a long-time investor in general for clients and stuff, I really do not want that. I don't want this market. This market is very uncool. Basically, this market kind of looks like Tesla. We don't want that on the whole market. Oh, aha, Felix. Yes. Okay, I'll answer your question now. I was going to say that stock sucks. So I'm glad you're not trading AHA. I'm not a penny stock kind of trader. Tom, should you check out Phoenix 1.119 indicator? Okay, Ollie, I'll tell you what, I'll write it down. I'm probably not going to check it now, but let me put that down. That's why I don't use pen and paper still. You can probably hear me running. So old. Phoenix 119. I still write things down. That's a bit old school, isn't it? Yeah, so this was a classic case of obviously a super bubble market. Again, big, giant kind of candles, superior blow off. The way of telling you're in a full bubble blow is usually when you lose about 10 to 15% in a week. And once you've done that, you know that it's busting, especially after this kind of move. Every single time, that is the sign of the blow off. That is the sign of the blow off. What do I think about? Oh yeah, let's just quickly look at this Bitcoin right now, because I assume it's coming under some pressure to that level. Okay, so it's holding this level pretty well, which is good. Bitcoin is strong at this 10K. We talked about the structure before. Multiple resistance bodies. We've got a nice 20 here on the weekly. We go down to the daily. We can see that it's rejected this zone a lot of times. Another cool thing about this rejection is we've got little wicks coming all off this level. That shows a lot of buying pressure off that level. That's good. Nice amount of body closes above that zone. The key here, though, is to see it trade off this structure and get through a body close above here. Once we get that, we're back into kind of 11,200. So I quite like Bitcoin at this level. I just want to see consistent buying pressure. I do not want to see a break under here. So bearish if it gets under there. We don't want that. We want bullish up here, ideally. Got a lot of questions coming in. We've got a big room tonight, so thank you very much, everybody. We've gone from kangaroos to Tesla to Nikola to everything. And why nobody talks about Apple chart gap at 107 to fill one at 100. There's big buying pressure here as well on Apple. This is the thing. The sentiment's so strong on Apple. Buying the dip for that. All right. I'm a long-term investor. Do you notice a long-term megaphone pattern? I've said a few times, I'm not a fan of trend lines. I don't even really believe in the megaphone pattern that much. Basically, if we look at the SPX and we draw it up and we think about, okay, we've got like a big trend line coming through the top here, and we obviously hit it, went slightly above and then rejected off. And this is that big trend line that goes through all these points. And obviously we've got the bottom here, which is where you're looking at the megaphone. So the idea, I guess, is I haven't watched. I know some people are talking about. I saw it in the videos, but the main thing here is, like, say you've got this thing here, yeah, and you say, okay, well, I've got the megaphone pattern. Yeah, look, it will hit this trend line multiple times. This is a bona fide trend line. It's fair to say this trend line exists because it's so easy to draw, and therefore everyone's going to see it. This is clearly a trend line that I believe is real. The bottom one is also a trend line that I believe is real. But do we get back down to the bottom of this? I do not think so. I think that what we might see is we might see a grind higher. So we might have it like do this. And then next time it comes up, it will sell off because it did so previously. It becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. So I definitely think there is a line at the top, but I wouldn't megaphone it too much. Hopefully that answers the question there. So Felix... considering this one, if somebody handed you over 2K, what would be your thinking process on where to invest and make say 10% plus per year? Okay, it's a good question. I'm actually going to do it on the channel with all the money that we make from live streams or whatever. I haven't spent any of it, so all the money that we've made on this channel so far, it's not that much, but we'll put that into a investment strategy, and then we'll use dollar cost averaging. And I'm going to show people how to compound over the years. So my general suggestion would be indices, but you wouldn't necessarily just buy one index. You'd buy quite a lot, and then you would diversify your indices. You'd possibly even go sector buying and just buy sectors instead of buying a specific stock. And then that's the best way of doing it. What you don't want to do is necessarily go and try to knock the lights out. So I think indice buying is totally fine, and you just buy a few different indices in a few different countries and dollar cost in. But we'll be doing that. We're going to give away a lot of that money to charity, which everyone here is going to make the decision on. So we'll give you a list of charities, and you can decide who, from the profits, we're going to give some of it away. It's something that I really want to do. It's a bit of a passion thing. I think it's good to help people. Can we look at Tesla? Yes, we can. Here's Tesla on the right-hand side, obviously buying off that level, which we're talking about. Made sense for it to be purchased off. Pre-stream, we spoke about that level. It's good to see it kind of buying. Get rid of the zoom chart. Not interested in zoom. Nikola is... Wow, it's a wild ride, everyone. It's like people have just woken up to the GM news. Back up to 49. Wow, that's a big switch. So pre-market, we had it at 48, 47, 49, that kind of area. And then we sold off to 42, and then we're back up. It's very much a trader's stock. A lot of sentiment here. Cracking through that 46. Wonder if it can keep the hype going. Remember, Nikola is a stock that is hype train psycho. So when it gets on, the retail comes out to play on this one. Plant a tree for charity. I have planted a lot of trees in my time. I come from a farm background. Yeah, we need to look at Disney, Shane. We'll do that in a sec. I planted thousands of those beasts. I love planting trees. That's a great idea. Disney is on the up. Had an upgrade today. Nvidia is on the up too. We're no longer down 5%. We're down 1.57 now. So it looks like this level's holding, which is good. Disney upgrade, that's nice. Strange that it gets an upgrade. Disney, how's that Mulan going? Disney's Mulan sparks backlash. Oh yeah, that stuff. I don't want to get into that stuff. Nice level of buying here though on Disney. Obviously previous resistance into support. It's not the kind of dip that you're getting on the tech stocks, but that's because it didn't move up that much. I'm a bit of a believer in Disney long term. I think it's a great property. Obviously it's still under where it was. Their streaming service will come good. It's got that kid kind of friendly thing going on. Up 20. Guess we won't see 330. Yeah, we're not seeing 330. We hit that 340, 336, I think. All right, there's so many questions coming in. I've got to get better at reading all these. Thanks for the content, Tom. No worries, dude. Mondays are so boring. Lucky it's Tuesday. Matt. Who trades the pre-market? You mentioned first hour or so is retail institutions at the end of the session, but who does the pre-market moves? Thank you in advance. I think the pre-market's a huge amount of just everybody. I mean, basically it's a big amount of futures traders, hedges come in, and there's a lot of retail trade. I've noticed pre-market's getting a lot more aggressive in the last, since really this crisis. I'm not sure if I can do all these analyses as they're coming in. We'll have a look at definitely some of them. Insider trading on key S&P stocks. Well, one thing you can always do is look, you won't get with free resources insider trading too much, but obviously they are released and you can look at that at FinViz. So you can actually go to FinViz, look up a stock, Nvidia, I guess, is a classic example. Click on Nvidia and there will be some insider information. So you can go down, scroll through, and there's all this information here. So you can see here, options exercise from this guy and how much he sold, and you can see whether he's been selling a lot. So he sold in August, he sold in September. So obviously, beast, cashing in hardcore in Nvidia. And you can scroll up as well, and it shows you a bit of insider transactions, negative 25%. It doesn't really fill me with confidence in the current prices. All right, Harley, I'll say hey to David. How you going, mate? Just because you're in the chat all the time, Harley, for sure. But there's a lot of information out here. I think American stock market's so cool, not only because you got great companies, and they are great, but on top of that, you also get so much information. I mean, here you get, whatever the monkeys think. The monkeys all think it's worth lots. I use these, but I don't really use them the traditional way. I don't go, oh yeah, I think it's worth 620 because of that. I take them all averaged together. And then what I do is I basically say, if I'm getting a TA dip buy and I like the company long-term for other reasons, and I've got all of these people saying that they're going to be worth a lot more, then I like that because I know a lot of people do buy off these kind of reports. And they do some fundamental analysis for us. Robinhood traders love extended. Yes. The crypto market in general loves extended market. Absolutely. Absolutely it does. So we still got Nasdaq pulling up pretty strong. Nasdaq closes up here. That's a super bullish signal. Double wicks, rejection off the zone, bullish. All of a sudden, then you're coming in with trading opportunities. You're going, okay, we say we get a bullish candle. Let's say it closed like this. And we get down like that. See to be a little bit further selling here, but if we did have that, then usually what you do with the bullish candle is you kind of put an entry a little bit above it, make sure the momentum continues in the direction, and then you take it. That's how you trade it more than you invest it. Investing, you're more just buying the dip in quality, but if for trading, you're looking at that further momentum. You want to push. See you, Logan. See you, Shane off as well. It's pretty late here in Aussie. Tesla double dip coming. All right, let's have a look. So Tesla still trading at, 361. Obviously, the Nikola is still going crazy. This stock is, I think this stock's kind of like a penny stock to me. It trades super aggressive. Cool if you like it. Check that VIX out. just quickly reiterate to everybody, the VIX is doing the same thing as it did last time, though we do expect it to probably try to test that high. Remember last time, big out of the gate, make a new high, big out of the gate, make a new high, test the high, rejection off, test the high, did not do that yet. So we really want to see, for bears, we really want to see that VIX get up there. Remember, copper is currently not telling us there's any kind of crash here. We're not looking at crash territory. We're just looking at dips because the stocks are a little bit high. All right, see you, Graham. I'll take a couple more questions here. See you, Shane. Thank you very much for the super chat, mate. Appreciate that, for the couple of coffees. That was good. Siddharth Muli, barely missed my 331.50. At least you put it at a slightly above 330, Siddharth. That's good. Never go for the straight number. Always go slightly above or slightly weak. Slack, yeah, let's have a look at that. So Slack, which is work, I think the code, that's actually coming under, it's at a really good level. So I saw this and I thought, it kind of doesn't meet my criteria for how long it's been on the market, but it's at a good level. We've got previous resistances, nice support, and obviously we had that kind of breakout. I like the stock. I do use it. We use it here. So it's not bad. I like this 28 kind of zone. VA says Tom is showing bullish candles. Not sure from which one, but yes. Slack here is not bad. Slack's got earnings today. No worries, Gareth. All right, a whole bunch of stuff coming in here. Nickel up. Yes, it is. GM News. I just realized I've been watching your stream 10 minutes behind. That's not good, Kyle, but fair enough. We'll just quickly bring up a few articles that have been happening. So obviously our good friends Goldman, the swingers, they've been coming out and they say 10% sell-off cannot be ruled out, but we're betting on it. Just remember the stats. The stats are, now that we made a new high in the S&P, next 12 months we should see 9% higher point. May not sound exciting, but we should see continued strength in the stock market. Obviously ahead of a few things like the election. We'll have to see what goes on there. But look, September is always a weak month. We kind of said that. October, usually not great either. November gets better. December should be Christmas rush. Let's hope it's good. Obviously, we'll be doing a live stream of the election day as well, talking about everything finance that day. Should be a absolute smoker. I think it'll be great. Only happens once every 4 years, everyone. 12 hours I'm planning. Maybe 14. I'll need a lot of coffee. Check out Workhorse. All right, I'll do that for you. We'll check that one out. It's this one, I assume? Yep, so this stock is very bullish. All right, so whenever you're looking at these stocks, I'll be honest, I don't believe these kind of things are easy to trade TA-wise. Why? Because you've got super aggressive moves and they're obviously coming off a base where they've been accumulating and just not doing much for a long time. So let's go to the daily. In terms of the daily, we do have at least a good structure point through here. So up till these breakouts, you just were buying it because you were in the hype. Then we had that dip after the hype, whatever that news was. And then now we're doing a very nice aggressive breakout. So what we would expect here is we'd expect it to get through, hopefully, the structure zones. We draw a range then. So remember, we always like to draw a bit of a rectangle. And we draw it between the bodies here. So that body there and here. So what our idea on this kind of stock is, and remember, this could be anything. It doesn't matter what stock it is. It could close through, confirm, and then when it comes back down, we want to see lightning bolt action on the smaller timeframes here. This is the conservative entry. Often you get a breakout followed by a bit of exhaustion. When you get that exhaustion, this is the buy. You've already seen that the market can get through that zone. So absolutely, that's it. Doesn't look too bad. Doesn't look too bad. Nice structure there at least. All right, so Dropbox survived what could have been a very bearish kind of move here. I must admit, I don't really understand this company. I feel like it can just get destroyed, but this one doesn't meet my 5-year criteria either. I like for a company, especially a tech company, to at least have, well, 5 years is my criteria, but at least 3 years on the market. I like to see it on the market. They always do this in the US. They launch hard and then they get busted for a couple of years. Facebook, Twitter, Snapchat. I've said it a few times in this stream. They all do this and then that happens. They get that sell-off. So yeah, that's really what happens there. But basically with this one, it's surviving it right now. So that's the weekly. We go down to the daily. We had body closes. We had support through this 1950 zone. We want to see that hold. We do not want to see that go down. As long as that holds, it's all good and it's all bullish. So we just want to see that 1950 hold. Very much so we want to see that level hold. You can see here even on the 4-hour, strong horizontal support through here. You'd obviously put your line down and you'd basically be like, please hold if you're long. Please. And if it gets through there, probably back down to the 1750. It's a bit of, there's a whole bunch of stuff going on here, but 1750 down to the 17 could be happening on Dropbox. All right, well, I think we'll call it there. Obviously, it has been a great stream. I really appreciate everyone coming out. Excellent stream. Thank you very much. We'll be covering off a stream next Monday as well, as we always do, making a bunch of videos this week talking about the markets and what's going on. And it looks like we're going to hold on the Nasdaq so far, but obviously it's early days yet. We're only an hour into the market open. And at this stage, we're seeing aggressive Nasdaq buying, possibly even more aggressive than we thought. And then, of course, US 500 is struggling a little bit. So for any bulls, you want this level to hold. Remember, if it gets through the 50, on to the next levels. Gets through the 50, on to the next levels. We could be seeing 3,200 on the S&P quite fast if we get through this and close below. Thanks, everyone. Really appreciate it. Great comments tonight. Sorry if I didn't get to yours.